they don't,
That's right.
Hello. Hello. How's everybody doing today? Good, good. So much energy. How's everybody doing today? Yeah. Thank you. No, yeah, so this is an IFC event. The event's going to be talking about funding and raising money for your projects, because that's why a high majority of you are here. Filming in the Kansas City community is growing at a constant rate, but to be involved in that growth, kind of money is involved with that, and how to get money, resources, what that looks like, so on and so forth is going to be very important. And so, you know, all you being here is really important as well. So I appreciate it. The IFC appreciates it, and give yourself a round of applause.
what's the IFC, Phil?
The IFC is the International Film Coalition. It is a organization for independent filmmakers. Raise your hand here if you're a member of the IFC. Okay. Raise your hand if you wish you were a member of the IFC. Well, if you say you wish you were, raise your hand for that. I suggest you talk to Patrick Poe right here. Patrick, say hello.
Hi, I'm Patrick.
Hi, Patrick.
Patrick is currently the vice president of the IFC, and he is doing a lot of fantastic things himself in the Kansas City film community. He is the founder of Birdwatching Film Festival that happens once a month. Give that a round of applause.
Woo!
And hopefully by the end of the day, I don't have to continue saying, give that a round of applause. You guys will be generous enough to do it yourselves. So, but yeah, I appreciate you all being here. Patrick appreciates you. All the IFC members appreciate you. And once again, the Kansas City film community appreciates you as well. Hey, Tony.
How you doing?
Good. All right. Yeah, the business of art, an IFC event. Yeah, that, just to begin, I think that everybody's story plays a part in how you're going to gain financing, right? Everybody's experience plays a part in how you're going to gain financing, right? So I think this, while this picture has me rolling out money, which is ridiculous, but this picture was taken in one of my first short films that I've ever did, or never done, excuse me. And the photographer of this is a guy named Kai. And Kai now, you know, this right here, he did not do anything in the film community. He didn't know he wanted to, you know, take photography seriously. He kind of just had a camera, kind of just, you know, trying to do his thing. On like he wasn't even freelance. He was just doing it when he had the time, right? But from this picture till now, Kai has his own studio in West Bottoms. Kai has taken headshots from many of the Kansas City film community over the last year. And Kai has kind of incorporated himself as like one of the, you know, integral BTS photographers in the Kansas City film community as well. So even in this moment, right now, you know, me and Kai work together to, I'll get into this later on, to incorporate presentation and the outlook of how you look for the outside world, so people can take you a little more seriously in case they want to use some kind of financing. So at this moment, I had no idea what was happening. I'm just like, I want to show this money off, which I gave to the cinematographer. But I was like, but even from there to now, you never know what's going to happen. So it's kind of just like, once again, the idea of experiences, right? And being, and the experiences you have, and incorporating that into your life for when it comes to funding. Does that make sense? All right, fantastic. Let's continue forward off the title page. Okay, now, I teach during the daytime. I am I'm an adjunct professor for Kansas City Community College. So when I teach, I prefer not to lecture, because who here has ever sat in a lecture before? Who here has ever gotten bored in a lecture before? Okay, exactly. So I prefer not to just talk to you and just intently look at you, Evan, right? I would prefer to have like a conversation back and forth. If you have a question, a comment, a thought, raise your hand and you will be called on, because that will make, you know, things more interesting, not just for me, but interesting for you, and who knows what we'll learn from each other, right? I am just one guy with one experience. But your experiences, once again, matter when it comes to getting this funding and getting this money for your projects, which are integral to have, because all your experiences matter just as much as mine matters as well. Okay? Go ahead. All right. Look, it's me. Funny enough, Kai took that headshot. The same guy from earlier. So, Philip Arthur Dixon. Why should you listen to me? Right? Now I gotta tell you a little about myself before we continue forward. Bio. I'm from Kansas City, from the Kansas City area. High school wise, I don't care about before high school. High school wise, I went to Bishop Gage High School. Hate them all. Then I went to Belton High School down in Kansas City, Missouri. South Kansas, Missouri suburb, excuse me. And then after that, I went to 4 different colleges. I went to Grambling State for a semester. I went to Allen County Community College for a year and a half. I went to Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee for 3 years, and I got my master's degree from University of Kansas. And I got all that, and I got my degrees and all that kind of stuff in African American history. And I think that's also important to note right now, because that is a key aspect to my storytelling as well. And I've done a lot of different things since then, since graduating. I graduated in 2020 from KU with a master's. I am now the special events coordinator for the IFC. I'm on their board. Once again, clap for the IFC. I'm on the board for Heartland KC, which is activism for the arts in Kansas City. They put on a production every single year, once again, like, there's a lot of influences and a lot of circumstances that move the scenarios, but I'm glad that I have been trusted to do so. We can continue forward. All right, so I had a lot of different film ideas, so I think I'm gonna start from the beginning, a little before Midwest Skid Mark, which we've heard before. So when I was in my 5th year of college, I thought that I wanted to just go in and be a history teacher in high school, and I thought I might coach basketball, baseball, read a book, and then coach cross country for the extra money. I thought I was going to be like one of those guys. And then my 5th year, I had to take one class that was only offered second semester, and I had to figure out get in where you fit in kind of thing, all the classes up to that point. And one of the classes I took was a creative writing class. And little did I know, that would literally change my life. Because I went from wanting to be a history teacher to all of a sudden at the end of both semesters, a teacher came up to me and was like, hey, you should be a writer. And I was like, what? No. But we were writing like short films and things like that. And I'm gonna be incredibly honest during this whole entire thing. So when she said that, I was like, I don't know, like, unless you're like Stephen King, you can't make no money writing short films, right? Like, you can't, there's nothing in that. So, but I enjoyed it a lot. So I kind of, I thought about how could I be a storyteller, but also at the end of the day get paid, because I kind of want my bills to get paid at some point, right? Doing what I love to do. And so from that, while in grad school writing my thesis, I also was writing the script for Midwest Skid Mark. And I was doing it simultaneously and kind of just thinking about, different experiences I've had living as like a black person in the Midwest, and the highs of that, the lows of that, and kind of showcasing that through a comedy. But at first it wasn't a comedy, at first it was drama, then it kind of just shifted, it kind of molded to what it would end up being. That's kind of how I got from that point to that point. But in 2020, the pandemic happened. And the pandemic happened, we were all stuck inside, especially during that quarantine section. So when stuck inside, I didn't know what to do because school was getting shut down and there's all these different things happening. So I had a lot more time on my hands. So I used that time to do 2 things. I downloaded Hinge. Downloaded Hinge. And then I got to writing on Midwest Skid Mark. And finishing up, at least, for what I thought was a finishing product at the time. Because once again, I did not go to film school. I didn't really know anything except through YouTube and books. And so the script came to be, right? First draft, second draft, 19th draft, whatever. And then I was like, okay, how can I fit myself into this film scenario in Kansas City? What does it look like once I move back here in 2020? And does anybody here know a man by the name of Samuel Bricker? Okay, Samuel Bricker. He now works in art. He now works in the art department all throughout, at all the productions that come to Kansas City. But at the time, Sam Bricker, I had met Sam Bricker at KU doing magic in a bar, because him and Isaiah Bouye right here, Rajan, who will be speaking later on, they went to high school together. And Sam Bricker, we had through conversations, he was like, hey, like I'm trying to get into this film thing. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to too. So all of a sudden, we're just the two of us going into Belton under the train tracks doing, what Spielberg says you should be doing. We were doing that at 25, 26 years old in Belton, Missouri. And, we made some things that will never see the light of day, right? But we were honing a craft and something that we wanted to get into, which we now both do on a regular basis now. It's kind of crazy to think about. So that happened. And then I heard about this thing through the grapevine called the bird watching. And I came to bird watching the first time. And the first time I ever came to bird watching was early 2022. And I met Evan at my very first bird watching, who was right there in the shirt there. Class. No, he says no, so but I met Evan and this guy named Logan Brown, and it was me and somebody named Jillian Nelson, if you know her. We all met each other. I've known Jillian since middle school, elementary school, but we didn't reconnect until bird watching. So somehow it came to be her bird watching because I wrote a short that was shot in Texas. And we'll get into the social media thing. And there was no representative here, so I was like, I guess I'll put into this bird watching thing. And it came up. It was one of the top 2 of the day, whatever. And from that day of when I put that short film into Birdwatch, little did I know how many connections were going to be made from that day. I had no idea. Because later on, I would go to Patrick and go to Patrick's home and talk about a few things in terms of a film. He helped me out with some film stuff, whatever. And then after Patrick helped me out with the film stuff, I told him about Midwest Skidmore. And I kind of just told him about it and was like, man, I really want to just write this and give it away. I just want to write and give it away. And Patrick was like, hey, why don't you just make it yourself? And up to that point, I literally had never conceptualized that being a thing. Like, make it myself, what's that mean? I just want to write. That's it, right? And when he said that, I was like, sure, Patrick, whatever. And then at that bird watch, somebody connected me to somebody named Devontae Brown, who also had a film being shown that same festival. And me and Devontae talked, and we talked like a week or 2 after I talked to Patrick. And Devontae, I kind of mentioned Midwest Skidmore to him, and he was like, well, why don't you just make it yourself? And I was like, this is, fool me once, like this, 2 people say the same thing, and it's kind of, and it's such close proximity, I can't take it for granted. This must mean something, right? And so instead of thinking very, very, very hard on it and going, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? Should I do it? Should I? I'll go, okay, I'm gonna do it. And that was September of 2022. And in September 2022, I decided that I am going to make a feature film. I might have left that out. It wasn't a short. It was a full-blown feature film. And I had done, me and Sam Bricker, and I had done some shorts, and I've done like 2 or 3 shorts before then. But it was nothing that should have prompted me to have the gusto to make a feature film. But once again, through life and me just being like the kind of person that I am, I was like, I'm gonna just do it. And the first thing I realized when I need to do this was, I'm gonna inherit some money. I don't have the connections. People aren't gonna do anything for me for free. Like, that makes no sense, right? There's no scenario where I scratch your back, you scratch mine, right? So in 2022, I literally was like, I have to make money. Let's make this happen. And you can go forward from there. So, keep that in mind. So, with Brother A Films, that's the production company that I own. It is official LLC, the whole entire thing. You know, the paperwork's been filled out, all this stuff. And for a while, for like a week in September, I was having conversations with different people about, I don't know how this works. Should I get an LLC? Should I get a non-for-profit? What does this mean? But like, the idea behind me doing it in the first place was about perception. Perception, perception, perception. If I was going to go to people and say, hey, can you give me money? And they were like, okay, what's your Venmo? Philip Dixon. I was like, that makes no sense why people would trust me with that money. So the perception is I gotta make a company in some kind of way, shape, or form so that they trust me with their money in a professional sense. Because, I'm an artist, but I have to showcase myself in like a business world sense, past the artistry. And that's the initial reason why I made Brother Abe. And it's kind of grown to be much more than I anticipated at the time. But that's the initial thought process, because it says it right under there. Perception is key. Perception is key. Because we are all artists in here. And people will look at artists as, people have misconceptions about a lot of artists. Some of them valid, some of them not valid, right? But people have thought process about artists. So if you're going to approach somebody and go, hey, give me small amounts of money, give me significant amounts of money, you have to think about what their perception of you in that moment is. And that was like the thought process. And, I think that allowed me to gain the trust of certain people in terms of the amount of money they would give, which I'll get into in a second. All right, go ahead. The hustle, right? I think when it comes to this, that there is this idea of the hustle, but you have to figure out what the hustle means for you, right? I'm Philip, I'm me, I have my own experiences. But my own experiences don't equal up or are not the same as your experiences. So the way that I engage with the hustle should not be exactly the same way in which you engage with the hustle, right? My talents are not your talents. The way I talk, my cadence is not the way you talk, your cadence. The way I think is not the way you think. So I'm gonna talk about the hustle that I went through today, but I want you to take this into consideration. I want you to take into consideration the fact that everybody's going to be different. There's just levels to it, and my level is different. Is it better or worse? No. But your level should actively be different than mine. Because, there'll be pictures of this later on. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Listen to a lot of podcasts about different ways films are made and YouTube videos about different ways films are made. No film is made the exact same way. None. Zero. Right? No film is made the exact same way, but I tend to call it the Wild West. Film is the Wild West, right? If you think about it, film has only been around for 100 years, a little more than that. How much in that time period has sound been around? How much in that has, mainstream, easy access to color been around, right? How much has CGI been good, right? Like, we are on like a new frontier, because like, in my mind, I think about like painting. Painting's been around since what, the cavemen? Like, painting's been around for a long, long, long time, right? But how long has graffiti been around? Right? So like, in film, there's so much more to be had, but we are on the frontier of like making it happen, establishment. So like, there is no right way to make it happen. The three examples in my mind I always have is 3 movies. Fruitville Station, Ryan Coogler. Then I have Malcolm X, Spike Lee. And then I think about Garden State with Zach Braff. And those 3 movies are really successful movies. And, some are more independent than others. Fruitville Station was very independent. Soundgarden was like in the middle tier, like pretty independent, not pretty independent, depending on the circumstance at the time. And then Malcolm X was not independent at all, but they still weren't being made the same way. And what I mean by that is this. Who here has seen Soundgarden? Or Garden State, excuse me, Soundgarden's crazy. Who here has seen Garden State? Okay, so Zach Braff movie, independent movie, you gotta watch it, whatever. But when you watch that movie, it is very low budget for what it was, right? Independent movie, the 90s, it had approximately $2 million budget, approximately. And Zach Braff, you know how he got that money? A mortgage company paid for it. A mortgage company paid for it. A guy was like, they approached like a film studio, and the film studio was like, all right, we'll go in half for this guy and this mortgage company who wants to get into film. And they had a conversation with Zach Braff, and the mortgage guy was like, wait, this sounds ridiculous. Why would I not just pay for the whole thing myself? And then get all the money myself, all the proceeds. And Zach Braff was like, yeah, you can do that. He goes, okay, can you turn your budget from $6 million to $3 million? And Zach Braff goes, we can definitely do that. Garden State was made. Mortgage, right? You know, you talk about Fruitville Station. Everybody here, who saw Sinners? Right? Most people saw Sinners, right? Everybody, most people love Sinners, right? Well, it's a great time, great movie. Sinners, you know, Sinners is the most recent one, but Fruitville Station was his first movie, his first feature film. And in Fruitville Station, to get that made, you know, that was his first feature film, and he had like one short that you can find on the internet before then. But he made that because of the connections he made from USC. And then eventually Forrest Whitaker, through these connections, got it and was like, okay, I'm green like that. But he got his straight out of connections. That's what it was. It was a networking scenario that allowed him to get to that point. And then you have Malcolm X. Malcolm X, Spike Lee, he had done many films before then, you know, School Days, The Right Thing, so on and so forth. You have all these different things. And then, but Malcolm X is a hefty subject matter, right? And you can, you know, push a lot of the wrong buttons with certain folks when talking about, you know, the story of Malcolm X. And they wouldn't give him enough money to finish the project. So he went to Oprah, he went to Magic Johnson, he went to different people that was in his circle to go, hey, can you give me money to like finish this project? And you know, he has this whole story about when he went to Magic Johnson, he strategically went to Magic Johnson first. And then went to Michael Jordan after that and was like, hey, you know, Magic Johnson gave me this amount of money. And knew Michael Jordan was going to be competitive, so Michael Jordan, you know, matched what Magic Johnson did. Right? Those are like, that's like high level people with high level economics, right? The status of them all. But you still see the strategy that he had to put in and implement to make it happen, right? Once again, those three movies, none of them were made the exact same way, but they were all incredibly successful. So I think about that and go, what does that look like for you? And I think about that and go, what does that look like for me? Right? And so when I think about my hustle, for me it was Skidmark. I felt to think outside the box, once again, because, you know, I'm not a wealthy individual. But, you know, sometimes I also think about the idea that money's fake. Money's real. It's a very real thing. But it's also fake. I follow sports. And then there'll be this thing in sports, and it'll be like, oh, like in Patrick Mahomes, or like the Kansas City Chiefs, they have, you know, they have the whole salary cap, and all of a sudden they can only spend, they only have $5 million left. Then all of a sudden they sign somebody for $15 million. And it's like, oh, but they adjusted here in accordance to this, that, whatever. It's like, oh, okay. So like, if that can happen, okay, so my mind for this, it was like, oh, it's a numbers game. If I just talk to enough people and have a conversation with them and go, this is why this matters, this is why you should invest, this is why you should care, then if I, you know, if it's 100 people, fine. But I see 100 people as I drive down the highway every day. Who are these people, where they're at, where they're from, and how can I connect with them? That was the thought process. Okay, so we have four of there's a lot of these, but we have four of the hustles. Social media, sponsorship, grant, and this dating show. Okay, keep going. All right, social media. So right here is an example of a tactic that I used. So when I was, what is this be 2021, January, I was teaching high school history. Yeah, I know I said I wouldn't do it, but I did for one semester. I was teaching high school history. And between on my development or like the periods where I had to like work on other things, I was like, I'm not working on that. I'm gonna work on this film stuff. And during that block of hour, that hour block, I had an idea. So what I would do is I would go to a famous actor, actress, whatever. I would go to the first movie they were ever in. And then I would look up those directors. Because those directors, many of them, were not verified on social media. Many of them you could have easier access to than a Spielberg, than a Scorsese, obviously. So I looked them up, and then I went to Instagram and I DM'd 100, 200 of them. I DM'd as many as I possibly could. And I lied. I said, for example, I was like, oh, good evening. It really did, I was like, good evening. My name is Philip Dixon, blah, blah, blah. I loved your film, insert whatever that film's name was. I was like, I love your film, blah, blah, blah. Hey, can we talk about this, that, whatever? And many of them didn't look at it. Many of them didn't respond. Many of them got left on red. But at the end of the day, once again, it comes to that thing of being a numbers game. I was like, if I can get to enough people, I don't need 100 people to like look back on me and respond back to me. I need 2. I need 1. I need to get to the room. That's it. I just need to have a conversation. That's all it starts. And so I went to Instagram and I did that for 3 months. Almost every single day during that period, I was doing the research about some director from some low indie. I went to, I did all the different genres I could do. I did, horror. I did thriller. I did action. Did comedies. I went to pornos, right? I went to anybody that had made a film that had some kind of production value to literally ask, how did you make this happen? And what was the finances looking like beyond that? And I think that is an example of the foot forward you have to take in terms of initiative, right? Once again, this is just me, right? I've heard people go, you shouldn't do something like this because it's like a cold calls or it's like it's like a full-time job in itself. Well, are you okay with that? Are you okay with the pros versus the cons? Are you okay with what you bring to the table? Are you okay with whatever, right? Because you have to be okay. Because at the end of the day, I think there's another aspect of this. You have to get rid of your ego, unhealthy ego. Everybody has a healthy ego, which you should have. But a lot of people will not approach somebody because they're like, nah, I won't do that. I will double call you. I will triple call you. I will quadruple call you. I will text you. I will double text you. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you know that I'm serious about this, right? Sometimes people can take that as being annoying, but also sometimes people can take that as not being annoying and you show initiative. Do not assume the thought process of the people that you're trying to get engaged with. Don't assume anything. What you can control is your actions. And this right here was me trying to, at the moment, take control of my actions. So once again, I did this for so many people. Give me the next one. And all I did, I did 2. It was a little more than 2. One guy gave me the runaround, he read a book, write a spec script, and then left me read. He was a producer for a while now, the MTV show. And he literally had me do the whole runaround. I got screenshots. It's crazy. I'm petty. But he had me do the whole runaround. And I did it because I was like going to do whatever it took, right? But I had these 2 people that I think gave me the best kind of advice. So I'll start with Jordan over there. Jordan, at this point, had only done this movie called The Binge. And I had never heard of The Binge. What's The Binge? Well, The Binge, turns out, was a Hulu movie. A Hulu movie about, you've seen The Purge, when they make like all like murder legal for one day, whatever. The Binge was that same concept, except they made all drugs illegal for a day. And it was really goofy comedy, but a goofy comedy that had Vince Vaughn in it, right? A goofy comedy that had like some people that you would recognize from other movies. And it was his only movie. So I was like, how did he get from point A to point B? I looked him up, and it turns out he got his whole start like running like he wrote spoof scripts of Fast and Furious movies. But his whole thing was running spoof scripts of Fast and Furious movies in one weekend. So he would just take one weekend, do it, and then have like a whole ha ha ha, but heard about it, then he kind of got some groove after that. And so he messaged me back. We had a whole back and forth. And then I had a whole conversation with him, and then he emailed me. And I asked him a question. He emailed me like a large email, answering every single one of my questions. This guy who made this really bad movie on Hulu. And that same guy is going to direct Dodgeball 2 now. That same guy directed a commercial that I saw last night on the Chiefs game with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. That same guy made a Binge 2. That same guy is in the lead right now to direct the Dennis Rodman biopic. Like, this random guy, he did this. But the advice he gave me was instrumental for what I need at the time. One, because his response in his first place, the response by itself was like, okay, I'm not doing this for nothing. Then two, he took his time to answer all the questions, what do I need in terms of, financing, what's that look like? How do I have people take me more quote unquote seriously, right? Should I should I actually make the movie myself, or what does it look like to pass the script on to somebody else, right? Do I need an agent? Do I need a manager, right? Like, he answered every single one of these questions in a very large email. And I appreciated that, because that would be, that would be part of the journey leading to me to where I am today. And this other person right here, Hoyt Richards, right? And I said, hey, I appreciate you responding to me. I saw your movie Dumbbells. I don't think I've still seen Dumbbells, right? But I asked him that, and I told him that, and he was like, oh, I appreciate it. We had a back and forth. And then this message right here, I wanted to, screenshot and put forward. It was like, he said, I say it's twofold. Don't stop rewriting and getting feedback on how to improve your script, because the script is never done until it's shot, right? Which I obviously did not know at the time in 2021. And he says, and second, don't give up on finding the financing for your film by turning over every single rock you can think of. Our first investor came from the most random circumstances. I was like, turn over every rock. What's that really mean, though? And that's what led me to believe that the rocks that he turns over are not going to be the same rocks that I turn over, right? But for me, and what I'm feeling, what I believe that I'm capable of, what does that look like? And so, we go forward, Patrick. And so, here's this. And spoiler, eventually I would get $55,000 from the Midwest Skid Market, which is, I think about it now, I'm like, how do you do that, right? But one of the biggest helpful ways in using social media that I went through is I went to Facebook. And I went to Facebook because I had more friends on Facebook than any other social media because I had Facebook the longest. I've had Facebook since the 8th grade. So over time, it just accumulated and accumulated and accumulated. And I was like, and little did I know why, I knew what benefits, but the network was large, right? People on my Facebook that I hadn't talked to Chris Sitek, freshman year, first semester of high school, dated this girl, and then I met her one time, and we were friends on Facebook, and I never saw her again. Right? Like, Facebook has that kind of stuff. And so I went to Facebook, and I messaged every single person, minus people that had just had a kid, or people that were in college. Outside of that, I messaged, I don't care if you're old, young, whatever, I messaged every single person. And I said, hello, my name's Philip, I'm on a bot. So I said, you're not a bot, can we talk on the phone about this project that I'm trying to do? You know, insert Midwest skid mark. And I put this person up here as an example of this, because he never responded to me. I haven't talked to Omar since the Hookah Lounge in 2014. Right? Like me and Omar had no connections past that point, right? In Nashville, Tennessee, I don't know what he's doing, but I messaged him because I had to turn over every single one of those rocks, or what I presumed would be rocks. And so with that, did a lot of people not respond? Duh, of course, a lot of people didn't respond. But how many people did respond? A couple hundred? And then how many people did I get on the phone? 100? And then at that point, it was just, I'm in the door. Now it's just me having a conversation with them. And I want to say this before I forget. At some point, we'll talk about this, but it's the idea of knowing your audience. Know your audience. If I talk to Eric right here, raise your hand, Eric. Eric, raise your hand. All right, if I talk to Eric right here, and I talk to Schaefer right there, Schaefer, raise your hand. I don't want to assume anything, but I'm going to assume that you guys may not be into the same things, right? I'm going to assume, especially if I know you even a little bit, right, something about you. And so it was, okay, I have a movie called Midwest Skid Mark. That's the title. Skid Mark. How can I have my movie, and how can I have my movie relate to all individuals? And figure out what that means and how to do it. So, from a skid mark, you know, people love comedies, but if you're an older person, I related it to Animal House, right? If you're in your 30s, I related to American Pie, right? I use very specific age demographics to showcase what this movie could be related to, because I needed to make sure that they knew what I was trying to present, along with the details, obviously, right? But first of all, you know, relatability is very, very key. And I'm like, okay, if you're older, I can present this to you as this. If you're younger, I can present to you as this, but it's still just as impactful for both. That is the idea, right? And so for Midwest Skid Mark, I had to do that over and over and over again. I had 5, 6 different scripts that I had written down, but obviously at some point I had them memorized. I'm like, oh, this person's 22? Okay. Oh, this person's 75? Oh, okay. And then past that point, it is, I will take what I can get. Whatever. If you give $1, I'll take $1, which I literally got $1. Yeah, and if you give more than that, whatever it is, I'll take it. And, you know, the lowest I got was $1. And the highest I got from an individual was $2,500 from a single individual, right? But I think all of these kind of tools come into play when you're having a conversation with this. Once again, this was just my hustle. All right, go for it. Sponsorship. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna get so much money on sponsorships. I didn't. Right? I talked to a lot of people. I was like, oh, let's have a conversation. Like went to a lot of businesses. I was like, hey, I can do a commercial for you, and your product can be in my movie, and we do the whole thing. I walked up and down these streets. I was on the phone. I was in Olathe. I was in Belton. I was in Lee Summit. I was in Bonner Springs. I was going everywhere in the Kansas City metropolitan area to make sure that this is a thing. I'll start off with my bad experience. Because obviously all experiences aren't going to be good. It's not all going to be bad. I'll say it. Around the corner right here is I don't know if it's open anymore, but at the time it was a barber shop. And I went into the barber shop, and it was me and my Venus wardrobe personnel here in Kansas City. And I walk into this barber shop, and I'm just like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about sponsorship, kind of just like, doing the thing, right? And the guy looked at me, mid-haircut from some guy. He looked at me, he goes, what's it about? I'm like, okay, cool. So I gave him a conversation, what's it about? And he goes, oh, so you like Tyler Perry? And I was like, oh, no. I was like, well, no. Well, I mean, cool, but no. And he goes, well, why are you here, not Atlanta? And I go, well, I have my own reasons, and I'm here because I feel that I'm more connected to the Kansas community and kind of showcasing those stories and blah, blah, whatever. But he goes, okay. And I go, so what's this about? And I go, oh, it's about like black perspectives and like people of color perspectives in the Midwest area. This is kind of going to the whole thing. And then he goes, wait, so that's what's funny to you? And I was like, no, it's not funny, but like, not everything's gonna be, and he started like going on me, like hard. It was like, no, I don't like that, I don't like what you're doing, and he started really yelling at me in my face, and I like had to make a decision right then to like keep it professional or not keep it professional. And I did, spoiler, I kept it very professional, but like in that moment, I didn't wake up in the morning thinking that was gonna happen, right? But I think when you put yourself out there, there's gonna be a lot of positives. When you put yourself out there, there's gonna be a lot of negatives too. And you kind of gotta take the punches and roll with them, but also figure out that also gives you a degree of character to figure out what you will do in this circumstance. And he went hard to where I had to say nothing. I had to walk out and like, little kid pace the streets. He was very upset, breathing heavy. It was a really hefty thing that happened. But that was like a bad scenario that, I'm not getting back there, right? Yeah, and doing all this while cut to my hair was crazy. But that was a thing that I didn't, that I engaged with, but I had to figure out in the moment how I was going to deal with it. And I felt like it was in a correct way, in a professional manner. But then, that was the negative part. Positive, I had a boutique out of Florida pay me $2,000 to make a commercial for these shoes, and then put that painting in the movie, just in the background. Anyway, $2,000 that I took and went straight to the movie. And we did it, small crew, me and like 5 people, went into the alleyway literally across the street from here, and just did it, worked on it for like a month or 2, gave back to them, they gave us the money, boom, easy. Right, so that is much more simplified than, the other one I went through. But I had to go through that to literally get here, because it's all about putting yourself out there. And once again, I repeat this till the roasters come home, what do they say? Right? My hustle is not your hustle, but you have to be willing to hustle to get things done. What are you willing to put yourself through to make your project happen? How committed are you to making your project happen? Guess what is it today, right? A lot of it's just commitment, right? You hear stories all the time of film projects that last for, film projects that, people are trying to get things sold for years and years and years. And some of them happen, some of them don't happen, right? But you can't knock the commitment that it takes for somebody to put themselves through that. The highs of it, the lows of it, whatever it is. And I think this sponsorship aspect and what I went through was a good analogy for that. And I think that's something that's very important to showcase. All right, you can go next.
Question?
Question, yes.
How many sponsorships did you actually get?
One. I got one sponsorship, but thanks. I got one sponsorship, but those $2,000 were greatly important, incredibly important, right? Because like some people will make a short film on $2,000, right? Some like $2,000 went towards. I'll give you an example. We spent John Conklin who is the main character, who is from Kansas City, but he lives in LA, has for the last like 6-7 years right now. And we use $2,000 because I was like, I went to high school with him, he's an actor, he's out there. I flew him back and forth from LA to here. Like, we shot it every weekend. At the time, I was teaching colleges. So we shot it every single weekend for a month and a half. And I flew him back and forth. So the $2,000 went towards my commitment to him because I felt that he was perfect for the role, right? So while it was just one sponsorship, and some people say, oh, it's just one, I'm not assuming you always say that, but some would say, I would say that one's better than none. And that one, $2,000, can go somewhere of significance. Okay. Grants. Grants are interesting because I also won one grant. I won one grant. It was the Inspiration Grant through IFCKC. And I've heard a lot of rhetoric around grants when it comes to getting money in film. I've heard a lot of it. And I find it interesting because coming from the academic world, grants are very important also. You know, governmental grants, academic grants, so on and so forth. Very, very important. Will, are grants important? Yeah, very important. Grants also take a lot of time to do well. If you're going to do a grant well, it takes a lot of time, effort, articulation. It takes a lot of, you know, a lot of diligence, right, to make a grant work for what you want to work for. And that's just if you find the grant. Because finding the grant is also a process. The perfect grant for your project is a process. And a lot of people are really good at grants. Like, it's a skill set. A lot of people are really good at grants. I thought I was good at grants. I won this grant, I was like, oh, I killed it. Like, this is my first grant, I'm going nuts. I haven't won a grant since. I haven't won not one grant since, but the time put in, it is the idea of, what do I want to spend my time doing? Do I think this project fits for the grant, or am I trying to force the grant to fit with my project? Right? And this grant was $1,500, something like that. And I won. And you know, it was a whole thing, and I was able to go to the arts building, which is right on the corner back here, and kind of network, connect with different people. But grants, and I had a conversation with somebody, who's Brady O'Connor, filmmaker out in New York, who's from Kansas City, documentary filmmaker, and she's the one talking about grants, and I really indulged and dug into grants for a long time, but for me, I just didn't, I haven't, the amount of time put in for grants, I'd rather put in something else, right? And that's just for me. For a lot of other people, I've heard the complete opposite. Who here has ever filmed a grant before? What are your thoughts on grants? It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time, and there's a lot of people that do that professionally for a living. So to your point earlier, people are getting paid to write grants every single day, and so you're competing with those people that do it for a living. So
yeah, like
you gotta
people,
be good.
You gotta be good. Also, you gotta know what your own personal skill set is, because film is incredibly collaborative, and that starts way before, you know, the first take of the first scene, right? That starts way before then. If you have the ability to find somebody who is like locked in on grants and that's what they do and it's like their trade, by all means, I would just use them. If you feel like you want to learn how to do that yourself, by all means, put in the work to do that. But understand that's what it's going to be. Putting in the time and putting in for the work. Most grants, people don't win on a whim. Grants are incredibly hard work. And some of them can be incredibly long too. And you know, I applied for a grant once, and you know, it was a grant for $25,000. How many people outside of me are also applying for that grant? What are their projects? Is my project up to snuff in comparison to others, right? Like, you also, at the end of the day, have to kind of be realistic about the project you're submitting for the grant to.
Well, I might also add, there's the grant maintenance point too. Some grants don't require a lot, but others may require you to provide constant reporting back and all this other stuff. So that time commitment can be very big even after you get the grant. So there's a lot of things to take into account there.
I one time didn't win a grant because the person, I gave stills of the short film, but the person who wasn't a filmmaker, who was the judging of the grant, said that they wanted to see the movie. I didn't get it because that person didn't understand the process. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to actively understand what's happening behind the scenes, and grants can get very frustrating. But if you're willing to do that, by all means, do it. If you're willing to, it is an idea. Once again, I think one of the through lines of this thing is obviously going to be, do you find it worth it? Is it worth it to you? Do you find the actions, do you find the work put forth to be worth it? For some, it'll be yes. For some, it'll be no. But it's kind of an internal dialogue you have to have beforehand. All right, Patrick. All right, so this is David Show. Did anybody here come to this? No? Good. Oh, you did? Well, it was here at the Berg Comedy Theater. And what happened was, I had to literally run out of ideas. Like, I was like, I need a tiny bit more money, and I had put in personal finances, I have put in, all this different work beforehand. I need a little bit more money. How can I make a little bit more money to get this project done for where I need to be at that moment? And I literally, it was on my mind at all times. I think, when you get obsessive about something you're passionate about, something you want to do, that like no matter what you do, it is literally on your mind at all times. And I was on a date. And that date turned into a business meeting. And it was like, all right, what can we do to get this project off the ground? What can we do to finish up the financing? And then it turned into this, literally a brainstorming session to talk about meet in the middle, which we came up with on that day, which we turned into an LLC, which we turned into a whole thing, but all the proceeds from the very first one went towards finishing the film. All proceeds. From the very first one, everything we got from it, didn't make a dime from it, all of it went towards the movie. And this is kind of like, a unique way to go about this, but I think it's to showcase how far one's willing to go to make sure that their artistry is shown, right? To make sure that something's solidified, to make sure that all the work of all the crew that put in the work for this specific thing, to make sure that it is, it is something that, to make sure we stick the landing. Because I think about this all the time, sticking the landing. A lot of people start projects, a lot of people don't finish projects. Who knows who Simone Biles is? Simone Biles, the gymnastics woman, the gymnast, as they say, right? Simone Biles, yes, a small gymnast woman. Simone Biles will, can do all the flips in the world. She can do all the cartwheels, the flips, the back flips, but if she don't stick the landing, she'll get zeros. Can you stick the landing? Because a lot of times, sticking the landing is what matters most, right? In the academic setting, I'm a teacher, I'm like, okay, a lot of times I'll read a paper, it'll be a great intro, it'll be a great body, the conclusion will be abysmal, because they're trying to get out of there. But it was like, no, the conclusion needs to probably be better than anything else, because that's what I walk away thinking about. The conclusion is, that is what's set in stone of what you believe this is to be. In this context, if I didn't finish it, then I didn't set in stone what I wanted, the work of all the cast and the crew that put in hours and hours of work on this is for nothing. Sticking the landing is what arguably matters most. And this project allowed me to stick the landing. This project, on the far right, Nico, he did sound from Midwest Skidmore. He did on-set sound from Midwest Skidmore, Nico. And then far left is Nate Collins. Nate Collins did he helped out with the footage for the green screen. Right? Like these people, and so it's kind of surrounding yourself also with investment of others. Can you get others to invest into what you are trying to do also? And I think that's a skill set that one can learn. This isn't out of nowhere, right? It is something that you can hone, you can craft to make sure that other people are on the same page as you, no matter what it is, right? And I think this is a encapsulation of what that can be. Because look, the entry fee is $5. And that $5 is kind of the thought process, right? With enough $5, who knows what it could be? And it's the exact same thought process of with enough $1 bills, with enough $2, with enough $5, $20 donations, who knows what it could be? All right, you want to go ahead? And here's the result. $55,000 is what I got. $55,000 to make this happen. And every single person on set was paid who had a line. Right, we some extras. Right? But like, if you had a line in the film, you were paid at least $50, something of that nature. Right? Because, you know, people took time out of their day to come support this project. So the least I can do is help that same thing, right? Once again, at this time, I also didn't know as many people, right? Jessica is right here, and she's in Midwest Skidmark, and I think I met Jessica through Trey, which is like for this specific project.
Yeah, he's the one that told me about the auditions.
Right, Trey, right here, far left, he's out of Wyandotte County, and he helped with auditions and pre-production. And then he was helped with that. He goes, you know what? I'm gonna audition, got in it, and then helped bring all the people in for the project. Connections, networking. And you know, it's still being worked on. Being that it's making a few things to make it suitable for streaming services, right? But I can't forget about the project. And I'm still trying to make sure that I stick that landing. I need this to be over with. I'm working on new stuff, right? But it's the idea, once again, sticking the landing. And I think this process that allowed me to get to this, this is something anybody can do. I think, you know, it's just confidence, diligence, work ethic, right? It is all these things that, you know, I accumulated and built up in different circumstances in my life that I didn't know how to showcase in this one instance. But I think that's, once again, not a thing, it's like, oh, well, inherent talent, whatever. No, it's just like a mindset that you can garner yourself. How passionate are you about the project that you are trying to get these finances for? I don't care if it's $100, I don't care if it's $1,000, $5,000, whatever. If there's a will, there's a way. Actively. And do you have the will to make sure that the way you do it will suffice into how you get your project done? Go ahead.
If I heard correctly, did you submit a short film and then you were able to get the money for the rest of the film?
There was no Midwest Skidmark short film.
It was an idea.
It was just an idea. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. I think, okay. I know a lot of people that have been to like film school, right? And I've been fortunate enough to have conversations with them, you know, KU film school specifically, I guess, and UKC. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I kind of caught this perception. I don't know if it's true or not. Do you agree or not? Sometimes they know too much. They know how the sausage is made a bit too much, so they get intimidated on like the process itself. Because you go to classes, you do so much, right? You're on different sets. I didn't know anything, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do it. And you know, I didn't. That allowed me not to get imposter syndrome, right? Like I didn't sit in it and think too hard and force myself to, in terms of like an understanding. I was like, no, I'm just gonna do it because I was kind of ignorant to, or uneducated, for a better phrase, to the process. And so I was like, I'm gonna do it and then learn the process as I'm going through it because I surround myself with good people. You know, Jillian Nelson worked, she's an AD, she was the first AD. She worked in, she was at Carnegie Mellon, and she worked out in LA doing things, right? Adriana Kalina was a DP, and she graduated from UNKC Film School, right? Sam Bricker, he also worked on this film, helping out, right? Like Trey, he had been acting around town for a long time, right? Like I surrounded myself, I was fortunate enough to surround myself with people that would fill in the blanks of my lack of knowledge. And that's one of the positive things about this, about film in general, is that you have to embrace the coalition. You gotta embrace the coalition, right? You have to embrace what you don't know, because this thing is constantly evolving and constantly moving. So you can get in it, you can do what you gotta do, but know that there's somebody else around you that has a different knowledge base than you, or just knows more than you. And what can you do to bring them in to elevate your craft also? And that's what this ended up being. So that's a very long-winded answer. But there was no short film. Right now, if I were to do it, I might do a short film first. Right? I am actually doing that right now, right? Actually, we'll get a second. But I would do it, I'll take a whole different process. But right then and there, that wasn't the process that I needed at that time. Does that make sense? Okay.
I have a question. So did you have, or did JT or anybody else help you like map out a budget of how much you would need before you started all the fundraising?
No. Before I started the fundraising, no. I literally said, I'm going to need as much money as I can. I had no idea what that number was. But it was going to be as much money as I possibly could. Now, now I wouldn't suggest that, right? I would suggest having like a more organized, succinct way beforehand. But, so you have like a goal to reach. But for what I needed, I necessarily didn't need a goal. I kind of just like, I'm just go. I'm just go and like pedal to the metal kind of scenario. And then eventually a budget will be laid out and helped out and so on and so forth. But up front, no. Before anything, no. It was like the money, I'm gonna get the money. The money's gonna go somewhere. Where's the money gonna go? I have no idea. And then as the process went along, I need to get more and more. But also I've learned, right? I've learned like one of the first days we shot, for instance, we had everybody had Chinese food. That was like the lunch. Everybody don't eat Chinese food, right? Like I could go get like, catered Chipotle and it'd be cheaper than that. You know what I mean? So like I would do things drastically differently. But the idea of, no, I'm just gonna use money, let's go. That was like the thought process leading up to it. Anybody else? Cool. But yeah, so coming to streaming sort of soon, and then expanded resources, once again, expanded resources for many involved. I still work with many people today. Trey was on a feature. He's on features all the time, on commercials, doing the whole acting thing. Tommy was flown out to Montana to go do a short film out there. Joey does a lot of improv around town. John's out in LA. He's acting in a play right now out there. There's so many people that are involved in this. That's just the cast. The crew, that goes without being said, right? I still work with Jillian to this day, I still work with Adrian to this day. You know, I met a lot of people at that time. People, not only have I figured out myself in a more succinct direction where I want to go in this, but everybody else involved had too. So now we're growing, we're evolving, we're being more solidified in our thoughts, we're being more creative in certain ways, right? But we're still but none of that happens. I'm gonna just say this real quick. Jillian Nelson, and I keep saying her name, I think if you don't know her, you need to know her, because she's a go-getter. Jillian Nelson told me, and I didn't know this or think about this. So she was in LA. She came back here when COVID happened. Came back here to live, and she was like, I'm done with film. I'm done. I'm good. At the time she worked on like a habitat thing out with Bottom Springs. So I'm just gonna do that. And then I messaged her I DM'd her, kind of talked to her in years. I DM'd her on Instagram, was like, hey, you should like come to this bird watching. And she did. And she said, and I was like, and I brought her here to meet, to talk about Midwest Skid Mark specifically. And she said, Midwest Skid Mark is the only reason she's in film right now. It's the only reason. Like, she got motivated again after being burnt out from the whole LA thing. She got motivated again to get back into it based off of this. And that's one person, and I don't even need to know everybody's story. I don't necessarily know. It's not my place. Everybody might take things and keep things more inside, whatever. But she felt like this is the case. Midwest Skid Mark helped her out in her journey to what film is and where it's going to be for her life. So, and she just won. She just finished. They're now in editing for a project, a short film that she's been working on, that she won a grant through the IFC for as well. That like is going to be very, very good, called Entire Printing People. And she now is getting directing, doing that. But without Midwest Skid Mark, there's a chance for that would never happen. So I think about her experience, and there's so many other experiences in here that I have no idea about, that I don't necessarily need to know about. But as long as one person has kind of evolved and changed and shifted, that's what matters most. And the networks based off this are also something that need to not take people for it as well. Go ahead.
When you were asking for donations, did you say you were going to put your name in the film, or was there any kind of incentive, or was it just straight donation?
There was incentives. I had like a platinum, gold, silver, bronze whole thing. And most of it, some people, for like the platinum, I would say I was going to put them in the movie as an extra. For one of the tiers, I can't remember which one now, for one of the tiers, your name went to the ending credits. I think that was like the minimum tier. Like, no matter what, your name's gonna go in the ending credits, no matter what. So if you look at Midwest Skid Mark, it's like, it gets all like the standard stuff for the crew. At the very end, it's like, thank you too, it's a long list of people. And, people love to invest in stuff. But people love to invest in stuff, in things that they can tangibly see themselves, that they have some kind of investment towards, you know what I mean? And so I definitely did do that. And kind of just, once again, the different tiers allow for different things. And I kind of went along with that. So yeah, thank yous and being in the film, those are some things that people literally like loved. And so they gave money towards that as well. Okay, Patrick, keep going. Yeah, so I'll reiterate this really quickly. Lessons learned. Imposter syndrome. I don't got that. I'm going, there's a confidence factor, right? I'm here. I know why I'm here. Let me continue to learn, but I know why I'm here, right? Confidence. I was in the 8th grade and hadn't played, real competitive basketball ever. And I was like, I played YMCA school stuff, and I said, oh, I'm gonna play college basketball. And then 5 years later, I played college basketball, right? So like, that's kind of just been in me. So I kind of take that thought process and put it towards here as well. Get rid of your unhealthy ego. Yeah, you can have a healthy ego. We all need one. And the unhealthy one needs to go, right? Yeah, ego can be positive, it can be negative, but I feel like a healthy one adheres to. A healthy ego adheres to unselfish actions in comparison to selfish actions, right? In my opinion. And the unhealthy one needs to go. Because once again, we are in something that's collaborative. You can't be too selfish in something that is collaborative. Shoot your shot. I don't know who said it. Wayne Gretzky said it maybe, Michael Jordan said it maybe, I don't know. Depending on the post, depends on who said this. But shoot your shot. Something about missing, right? You never know what's gonna happen. Shoot your shot, just a different term or phrase for turn over every rock. Continue to learn well, that's bad. Continue to learn while engaged, that's also bad, in action, right? Learn, don't just talk off the wall. That's really what it is. Don't just talk about it, be about it. And then people, you don't have to, a lot of times you don't have to say anything. People just see your actions and they'll just quote. Does that make sense? So it's going about that way. And then once again, public confidence. Okay, keep going, Patrick. So that was Midwest Skid Mark. And once again, still trying to get on streaming services, the whole thing, the whole process, the gross. But now I'm working on a new project. And I talked to individuals about this new project, but I'll be more specific here because this is an IFC event. So this new project I'm working on is called Harsh Lights. And the reasons, of why I started doing the skid mark have shifted for the reasons of why I want to do Harsh Lights. And I'll get into it like this. I was laying down in bed one day, and I was watching WrestleMania last year. Literally, like I was watching it, and while watching it, they did like a pan of the crowd, and I was like, man, that's a really diverse crowd. And then I started thinking about wrestling movies, and I was like, hold on. Every wrestling movie is one of a few things: a biopic, or a comedy, or it's about white people. That's it. And you can like in wrestling, you can go back to Junkyard Dog, you can go back to the 70s, 60s, 50s, Kansas City, New York, LA, whatever. There's been a lot of different looking people in that performing art. So I sat there and I go, there's something here, and I don't know what this is. So I went out of my way, and I picked up my phone, and I got on Twitter, and I just DM'd one of the premier wrestling journalists, and I was like, hey, I got this idea. I was again using social media. I was like, hey, I got this idea. And then 2 minutes later, he messaged me back and was like, that's crazy, because I also have an idea. And we had a little bit of conversation, got him on Zoom, and it turned out he's about to write a book about his life. So essentially, I convinced him to scrap the book and let's make a movie about this. And so we had the conversation, and then this was in May of last year, and then from May, so in June 1st, I was like, all right, I'll get you something by in a few months. June 1st, I wrote the first draft of Harsh Lights. Like first draft, stream of consciousness, just writing it in 1 month. I just, every day, I was like, at minimum, I'm going to write 250 words. That's it. And then at the end of the month, I got a few friends together who are like some writers, and I gave them a Harsh Lights when I scrambled together. They read it, and 2 weeks later, I hosted a little meal at my home. They came and ate, and then they gave me their feedback, and the next 2 weeks after that, I just edited everything of what I liked from the feedback, what I didn't like from the feedback, whatever. And then by that, I had the first draft to show people Harsh Lights. And I showed it to him. He was like, oh, you're serious? You said a few months, but you went like 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And I was like, no, it's 2 months. Because I was establishing the presentation. I was establishing this is the expectation going forward. So then he did that, so I did that. And then it went from there. He read it, he liked it. I put his name in it to keep him invested, honestly. His name is the main character's name, because it was like, okay, how can I make sure he doesn't lose interest in this? It has investment in it, okay? Investment means that the main character is going to be your name, so you care about what your name's attached to. So I did that. And then from there, he had connections to people I had no connections to. So I was talking to different people of his friends and different confidants that he had, so on and so forth. And then later that year, he was like, okay, my people said need a short film. You have a budget, which I had at the time, a more succinct budget. I had a budget, I had the script, and they were like, this is great, but we need something like, what's this gonna look like? Like my people want to know what it's gonna look like. So in the second week of November, I was like, I gotta make a short film. But I gotta make this short film by the start of the calendar year, because that's when people start digging into finances, about how they would spend their finances for that year. And so, that's great. And so I had a month and a half for pre-production, production, and post-production. And luckily, because film is collaborative, the year leading up to this, I had met some really good people who could make this happen. Jesse Vandermeyer, I had worked on a few features that he worked on, and he did sound. Devontae, he shot it. Devontae had connections to his gaffer, right? I worked with a guy named Jarrell Washington, and Jarrell Washington, he had connections to Kwaku and Mead. Trey was able to get one of the children, right? Like to act in it, right? There was all these different connections that I, accidentally garnered in that year leading up to this that led to us to be able to make this in a very quick, effective, and efficient way. And by January 1st, it was done. January 1st, it was done, and it was, at that point, the biggest production that I had worked on that I was directing. It was, Schaefer, were you ready for it?
I was there for it. I didn't help, but I got to visit.
What did you think about the set itself?
Kicked ass. It was great. It was awesome. It was really cool to come onto a set where half the people knew each other, so you have that fantastic sense of communication. That's what the networking really helps with, is because you come out to these places and you don't have to come in and feel like, okay, how do I get to know everyone? You get to come in and just integrate and get going. And I mean, that alone, once you have momentum, it's just hopping on. It was cool to see. You did a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. But it was crazy because it's a wrestling movie. So we had to find the ring. We had to, and I'll give credit's due. Josh Leonard, he comes to the IFC a lot. He edited Midwest Skidmark, and he was the one who had connections to the wrestling ring, and he had connections to that wrestler that talked on the day of Mead and Kwaku some holds to do for the action sequences. So it all came a little full circle, like a lineage of why these people were in these situations to make this happen, right? And so we finished that up, and then after we finish this up, generally you shouldn't trust things until it's written down, right? Until it's on paper. But some things fell through, some things were positive, some things were negative, whatever. But all that being said is, of the last 3 months towards this project, which we're asking essentially approximately $1.5 million for this project. And I've been fortunate enough to be in the room and have conversations with exceedingly wealthy people who are interested in this project. I have one next week, a meeting with one. And, it is setting yourself up for success, right? I'm getting a website. I'm getting Brother Abe is still an LLC, right? It is, the look of this is really polished, really good. Talented people worked on it. But also, I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm not capable of. There's a guy in town named Parcel Gray, who is currently running for Congress, and I contacted him about this. He's a big wrestling fan. He owns Fountain City Wrestling in Kansas City. He's a really big, he's like a big wrestling guy, whatever. So I contacted him, and I was like, hey, are you interested in, something? And he was like, oh, you want to do an interview? Okay, cool. So he had me on his radio show, and we had a conversation about this project. And then when the interview was over, I was like, hold on. Let me ask you about something real quick. And so I asked him about coming on the project, essentially to go into meetings with me, because he has a name already that I don't have, but also he can talk. So I was like, okay, I want somebody to walk into this meeting with me, with more wealthy people with more resources than I do, and I need to have somebody come in there who has charisma that's flowing off of them, because that's what he brings to the table a lot. And so I brought him on to that, and now he's gonna end up being an executive producer for Harsh Lights when it gets made. And he comes into meetings with me all the time. And because of that, I brought him on, and he's like super stoked about this. He brought me on to direct and produce his campaign videos, which I've been doing for the last like month and a half. So it's, once again, it all leads into this networking capability and the capability of networking with other people, because you have no idea where things are gonna go. You have no idea. And so Harsh Lights is a project that's happening right now, currently, that
Is majority of the film already shot and filmed?
no.
Okay.
So what happened was we wanted to have a proof of concept. This is what this film will look like. This is the energy the film's going to give. So I chose 8 pages out of the script that I thought would be best indicative of what that was going to be. So it's a scene where the kids are playing on the trampoline, you know, best friends kind of thing, and they get each other into like a hold. And then it transitions from the kids in the hold to them as adults in the exact same hold. And then it goes from that of like child wonder, and I hope, you know, I can be anything in this world, to them as adults, as independent wrestlers, and the world is like really like bogged them down. And now it went from like, it went from Sandlot energy to He Got Game, if you know that one, right? It went from like really like jovial and lightly eyes to not at all. And that's the energy I want to give to investors when they see that. So it's just the idea of, you know, I didn't need to make a long short film. It needed to be 8 minutes of exactly of what I wanted to showcase of what this film is going to be. Go ahead.
It's giving their longtime ops.
What'd you say?
I said it's giving their longtime ops.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Like they were longtime ops, like enemies.
No.
I'm
You're right.
saying that's what the picture looks like.
Oh, well, if you look at the pitch deck, if you want to after this, anybody, the pitch deck is fairly different, right? But, you know, once again, friendships from young to adult, but if I were to choose one of the through lines, like a second, one of the through lines from Midwest Skid Mark to Harsh Lights, it is purpose, right? No, I did the proof of concept with a purpose. I wrote this script with a purpose. You know, in Midwest Skid Mark, I approached people with a purpose about getting the financing. For this one, you know, for Midwest Skid Mark, it was crowdfunding. That's what it was crowdfunding. For this one, it can't be crowdfunding due to what I'm asking. And me and Tony actually had a conversation about this earlier, of because of life, a lot of crowdfunding things are not working right now. Because people have to pay for certain things, people whatever, right? And a lot of things aren't working right now. And, you know, for me personally, every time I've tried to use, you know, GoFundMe or whatever, something like that, to crowdfund, it's never worked. And I could be wrong, but I hypothesized that it was due to the fact that like, a lot of people use those just willy-nilly now. It's all, you know, help me do, it's my birthday. You know what I mean? Like people use like that now, so it's kind of lost its luster to a degree. And so like, that's why I kind of went to like the individual by individual basis. I'm gonna have a conversation with you as an individual to get you on board instead of just like, here's my project kind of thing. But for this, the crowdfunding is not gonna work. Right now, people aren't just like throwing out money or whatever, but for the amount of money that I need for this, or I'm wanting for this, I have to go to people with high finances. Their economic status is very, very high. Is that true? I don't know. That's the way I felt, or I'm feeling currently about how to get this done.
So who are you going to and how did you get in those rooms?
We're being filmed, so I'm not gonna say who I'm going to, but I will say how I got in those rooms.
Yeah.
One of the rooms I got into is I DM'd him on Twitter. Literally, I DM'd him on Twitter, and it wasn't, so like, there's a celebrity who had a lot of different avenues, a lot of different business ventures, whatever. And he has connection to somebody. And I didn't want to go to celebrity. I wanted to go who the celebrity knew. So I went to this other guy, and the other guy, through Twitter, who just were on Twitter a lot, he like says a lot of things. So I'm like, he must reply possibly. So I just shot the shot, and he replied, and that was 7 months ago. And now he's on the pitch deck as an executive producer because he wants to be involved in this project. And he's having a conversation soon with somebody from ESPN that I found out like 2 days ago. And so like, that's a thing. But that's just through social media, right? But it's using social media with intent, right? So social media, now everything's social media. It's kind of like a, convoluted may not be the word, but it's like so much on there that certain things can be bogged down. So you have to go in there with a strategy. What's your strategy? And my strategy was, there are people with a lot of finances, but those people have friends, right? Because the idea for me is, wealthy people know wealthy people. I went to the Big Slick, you know what that is? So I went to the Big Slick this past year. I had the privilege to go. In the Big Slick, I'm watching, you know, I'm in the nosebleeds, and I'm watching them like auction for 10 lasso tickets for $250,000, and they're auctioning for SNL and Kenan Thompson's up there, and you know all these different celebrities. And I'm up there just watching, like, okay. But then I'm like, how do I get in contact with those people? Who are just like, oh, what are we going to the red carpet? I'll toss some money out there. That's my thought process. And it was like, I don't necessarily know how you just get in contact with people, but like, those people know people. So who do they know that I can get in contact with? And that's why I started to go for it. It's like the friends, right? The confidants, you know, if they have like a podcast, who co-hosts that podcast? Who runs that podcast, right? Who is the editor of that podcast? Those people respond. And then if they have connection with other people, you can kind of go through that avenue. That's the avenue, that's the route that I've taken. Is it the right route? I'm not sure. But it's getting me in some rooms, and at this point, all you can ask for is to get in the room. Whatever happens after that, happens after that. You know what I mean? So that's something that I thought was kind of important to kind of dig into as well. Go ahead.
Do you have any like community aspect to it, like the investment happening in Kansas City? Just because we're in such a hot spot right now, and we have so much attention, especially with the World Cup coming.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if my background's in social work, so like that bringing back in the community part,
Bringing it back to community.
really powerful.
So, yes, I have been asked, like, when I mentioned to somebody, and they were like, I was like, I want to be shot in Kansas City, because I hold dear to everything I make, authenticity. Like, I would like, if it's gonna take place in the Midwest, let's make it in the Midwest. If it's making it in Kansas City, let's do it in Kansas City, right? Let's do what we can to make that happen. And I'm trying to get the finances to make sure that happens. And the guy was like, what about Jersey? What about Jersey? They just built a thing in Jersey. And I was like, but Kansas City is a thing that kind of, there's a hot spot right now, but it's a hot spot for a lot of people out of town coming here, but it needs to continue to be a hot spot for the people who are already here to bring things in as well. You know what I mean? And so I'm just trying to make sure, if possible, that I'm a part of that lineage that was started long for me, right? But to push it forward, because I see people in this room, I also see people in this room that can work. I see people in this room who have talents, right? I mean, I worked on a feature last year that shot on B-Day, and it was a large budget feature, like a large, $2 million, 1.5 billion. And I walked on that set, and I hadn't walked on the set that large ever before that point. And I walked away thinking one major thing. This person came in from LA. They were wildly not talented. They weren't talented at all. We have people here who are more talented, significantly more than this individual was. This individual just had resources. That's all it was. So it was like, okay, how can I work to bring resources in? Because my thought process is, if I can get resources to trust me, I can get resources to trust others as well. And maybe that'll be the case for somebody come towards me too, right? But like, I can only control. So it is the idea that the expansion of resources matters more than anything. Because talent can only take certain people so far. Because like for me personally, I'm gonna give it a buck. Me personally, I'm on the top of the call sheet or the bottom of the call sheet. I either PA or I direct, or I produce, whatever, right? Like my skill set does not involve in the in between, and I'm okay with that. But if I'm okay with that, I better be taking steps forward to make sure that the resources that come along are going to be digging into that as well. You know what I mean? And so the work, the push, all that kind of stuff, but it's all about community. Because, you know, Kansas City raised me. No, sounds like a billboard. Kansas City raised me, right? I mean, I grew up here, I'm from here, families here, Wyandotte and KCMO, like all throughout a few generations. So why would I not want to showcase who we are and what we can do? I never really think about that. I kind of just want to do it. It's my thing. Just go ahead.
Have you had any experience with investors, and if so, how was that experience?
I have. The first question they're going to ask you is, who's your audience? The good ones. The first one they're going to ask you is, who's this for? Who's your audience? Right? Because the thought process is return on investment. So they care about how they're going to make money back. You have to literally know exactly, you have to know all the ins and outs of your project. You have to know it. Because that's what they're going to dig into. Like, I've been asked that many times at this point. Yeah, but I see all this art stuff. But who's it for? Who's going to watch it? Where's it going to go? Right? And like, you don't have to have like a solidified way, but you can kind of just do in an ideal world, this is what it's going to be. Right? And so it's been interesting because I've dealt with investors that are like very suit and tie and buttoned up, but I've also dealt with investors that are like eclectic, like, yeah, you know, like legitimate. It's crazy, but like venture capitalists are all types of people. You know what I mean? And all you're doing is, and we'll get into this later on when these two individuals come up here. You are promoting yourself, but you're promoting the business. And you have to have that business acumen or thought process of understanding how this is going to work to bring it into. And that's all investors care about. Most of them don't care about. Most of them care about a cool project, or they care about how they're going to make their money back. How can you convince them that they will make their money back? Go ahead.
I wanted to do a follow-up question, so, literally, so, what's the question? Oh, okay, so you kept asking frequently, who is your audience? Do they ask that, like, to really dig in who is your audience, or if you can just tell them, like, a one answer, like, oh, they are people who wear hats or something? Like,
Dig in.
do they
Dig
really
in.
dig in?
Dig in, because you'd rather say too much than not enough, right? You can always pull back, but you can't say more. You know what I mean? So like, go in, be as detailed and, you know, understanding, because at the end of the day, you gotta convince them that you also know what you're talking about. So the data, the receptions, the understanding, all these different things you have to be aware of, or have some kind of thought process. Like, you have to, you know, that's like turning over every rock in a different context, right? You have to understand what you're doing, what your presentation is, and that's what they care about. Once again, because you gotta think they care about money. Go ahead.
Can you talk about dealing with lawyers and accountants when you're taking investment money?
Lawyers and accountants, we will talk about accounting in a second. I'm about accountants in a second. This guy up here.
Do you have a business plan for Harsh Lights?
Yes, I have an intensive one.
Cool.
One that me and like a team like worked on. Nothing about Harsh Lights is accidental, right? I don't necessarily believe in I don't believe in like luck that much. I believe you set yourself up for a situation and then, you know, you're either bad or not. I mean, that's a personal thought, right? A personal belief, I guess. But like, when it comes to lawyers, when you can talk to people of a certain economic status, you will need to have a lawyer, point blank, period. You need to have a lawyer to write up contracts, you know, depending on what it is, NDAs, depending on what, like, possibly depending on what it is, to take care of your, take care of the paperwork, to take care of your business, right? You will need a lawyer to take care of all these things, because also, then we, to a degree, sometimes that can be too much for you to handle by yourself. I didn't go to law school, right? So there's certain law things in dealing with law that I just don't know. But I have to be okay with not knowing that and trusting somebody who is, and there's like lawyers around now that like know these things, right? It's like what they do. There's accountants around town that know these things. It's what they do, right? We can have like a surface level about it, but no matter what, if somebody went to school for tax codes for 5 years, you will not know as much as that person.
So do you have an arts and entertainment lawyer?
I have, yes, but that's not what they would be. I don't know if they would describe themselves that way. They do like a lot of different kind of law stuff, but it's not their only summit. But yes, a person who like will go through for my business, things like that. Yeah, he's very knowledgeable. But once again, we kind of need these things because I'm not going to go to ChatGPT and write up something. And all of a sudden, their lawyers got to talk to. At some point, the lawyers got to talk to my lawyer. You know what I mean? That's like a part of the whole business, like presentation, also, right? The acumen, but also like you don't want to set yourself up for a situation where that's not good. Because at some point, when it comes to harsh lights, I'm going to have to deal with like, you know, points in the back end. I'm gonna have to deal with, you know, production percentages and credits and deal with like certain things in the back end that I quite literally can't deal with as I'm like working on the actual project to make it good, so people who can invest in me can make their money back. So I gotta like hyper focus on certain things, but I can't do it all. So having lawyers on the back end who can like understand these things and work it out for you and have like basic conversation with you about these are gonna be very important.
So this will be the first film that you work with like investors with points in the back end?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, these two, and then we got these two. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm tracking, because I get the idea of approaching a project and like making a business out of it, so to speak. You mentioned having a business plan for this current project. I guess, like, I've always been lazy maybe. I don't know. I didn't want to take on my own production company,
Right.
so I didn't really think about that business entity and the way that it works with each project as a separate business entity. Because it sounds like obviously you're not hiring a lawyer on a per project basis. You've got the lawyer through your production company. And then I guess it's just dawning on me, just the scope of taking yourself seriously and breaking out of that shell. Because I haven't seen it in such a linear fashion, like how the ways that my experiences line up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there, but then just one little way that you take yourself more seriously, that ego thing, and it's just blowing my mind. I just want to make sure I'm tracking it all together. Like, this is really just the chrysalis of like, I didn't know what I didn't know, so I wasn't scared. I learned by experience, and now you're just like taking yourself really seriously and not afraid to like invest in these areas. That it's like, I want to say, oh, I'm not professional enough to need a lawyer. But you're doing it, I guess, proactively because you're seeing where you want to go with the scope of your projects, right?
Right. It's okay. I'm gonna use this name again. Tyler Perry. When Tyler Perry was on stage doing like stage plays with Medea, because I remember seeing him, Tyler Perry, like, you know, a cousin's house in like the 3rd grade, whatever it is, and there was like a camcorder facing the stage. You can't tell me he didn't picture himself with Tyler Perry studio.
Oh, yeah.
Like he doesn't have to say it out loud, but at some point he conceptualized, like, I can do this, and so you can only achieve what you can conceptualize yourself doing. And that's like a belief factor, it's an ego thing, but you know, when you talk about the idea of taking yourself seriously, it is, I think for me, it was seeing that feature film and going, this guy has all this and he's inept. What? So, okay, so if this guy can do it, then I can do it too. Because once again, I didn't know that until I saw it. You know what I mean? And so I had to be in a situation, I was fortunate enough to be in a situation to where I saw that. And, you know, I think situations like this is the ability to, you know, some people don't need to see things to believe things. They gotta just have to have an idea that it exists in the first place, right? In community, in our neighborhoods, in our streets, in our city. And I think it's very important for that to be the case. And so, yeah, I usually agree, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, is your lawyers kind of like budgeted into your like film project? Is that something that's like goes hand in hand?
It's depending on, it will be at some point, but right now it's like, depending on how much work you do per month, is how much you pay. Essentially what it is, right? If you do nothing, you get a flat fee. If he does something for a flat fee, but like at some point, he's going to be doing significantly more. But when he does more, then like we'll have the money, we'll be in a position to have investors and the money to be able to pay for that in the first place. Does that make sense? Kind of like a two-headed thing.
Also in this area, you're not allowed to have a retainer for an attorney. So like that per project thing, that's just consistent.
Right, right, yes. I mean, again, these things, these conversations, they all matter. You know what I mean? Because, you know, these are situations that that I'm in right now, that there's no, you may be in at some point, who's to know, right? But a lot of it's just like the work, the effort, whatever it is to put forth. Patrick, there must be a slide behind this.
There is.
Oh, yeah. So, just to reiterate a few things, the difference in scale between maybe skid mark and harsh lights. The strategy before a word was written. I had a whole strategy before I typed anything, right? Very, very important. Production. With a skid mark, we didn't have a set dress. In harsh lights, we're in like DIT, right? It's like the levels of like positions are gonna be massive. We know we had PAs, but in harsh lights, we're gonna need like art PAs. We're gonna need, you know, like there's gonna be so many different things, for example. Individual investors, that's the way I'm going about it. Anybody can do anything they want, but individual investors is an important aspect of what we're engaging right now. Return on investment, that's what they care about. How can they make money better, right? I think there is a balance you can make with artistic integrity, but also return on the investment, right? There is a balance that can be made, you know. Before Wes Anderson was able to be Wes Anderson and do whatever he wanted, he had to have some shackles on him. And he was still able to be Wes Anderson, we all know, but still have, you know, some kind of diligence in that as well. The knowledge of your business. You will never know everything. You won't. You will never know everything. Everything, you're learning, you're growing, you're evolving every single day because there's going to be new information that you don't know, new information that I don't know. I heard something this morning that blew my mind. You know what I mean? So it's very important to be open to these things because these things are going to be very important. Okay, Patrick.
Hey, Philip, on the ROI piece, when you're having those conversations, how many of them are just wanting the basic return on what they invested initially versus additional income beyond that once the project's out? I imagine it's probably kind of both sides of that, but are there some that want more out of it than others, or are there some that just want the basic investment back? So what does that conversation look like?
Somewhat more, somewhat less. Some want creative, some don't want creative, some want just, you know what I mean? Kind of like, it's a situation by situation basis. You kind of gauge it to where it is. In my experience, they're a little more whimsical of an investor. The creative, they want to do it also because it's like a fun, cool thing to do. But some people are just strict business. Okay, like, oh, this is a business venture, okay, how much money can I make back? Okay, well, this math, and all of a sudden, boom, we're good, right? So these things, so it's such a situational basis. You have to go in, if you're gonna have conversations, you gotta go in and kind of just gauge yourself. Because just like we're all individuals, we all want and think differently. They're all individuals and want and think differently too, but the audience and the reason they're giving you the money is because they want it back in some way, shape, or form, and that's something you also have to consideration. It also depends on, are they out of state? Are they in state? You know, like there's so many different contexts to the situation that matter, that I think that's a hard question to answer, because I have, once again, my experiences, but you may run something completely different, right?
Has there been an investor that you've ever, based on your project and what you're trying to achieve, where you've said, this investor is not right for me, versus the other way around, where you've actually turned down an investor that you don't want to come on your project, because maybe they are too demanding or wanting more than you're willing to give?
I have not ran to the investors saying that I had to turn down. I can foresee that being a thing because I'm very specific. I have a specific enough moral compass that that there's some things I know that wouldn't fly with me, but I haven't been in a situation quite yet. Last one.
I asked, did you use your own bread, especially during the first one?
My own money?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I used as much as I literally could, right? Because I
Was it
did,
mostly your money or was it?
it was not mostly my money.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm a adjunct professor. It was not most of my money. It was, it was what it needed to get at the time. But it was significantly more donations than it was my money. It wasn't even close. So here's what happened. So we have two people here today that I want to bring to the stage that are going to be very important because this idea of, the idea of taking yourself seriously is the idea of presenting yourself as like a business. Presenting yourself, if you want, depending on the level, presenting yourself as a business, or presenting yourself as, an entity, right? That people can invest in. Because people don't really invest in ideas all the time. Sometimes they invest in the people that are behind those ideas. Because they see potential, they see all these different things, right? And so, I'm gonna keep using your words, the idea of take seriously thing. We have two people here that are really important and have important things to say, I believe, in regards to this. The first being Eric Booth. Come on up, please.
All right.
You really don't. His name is Eric Booth. He is the.
I'll do the introduction.
You're the introduction?
I'll do the
Hey,
introduction.
and I'm out.
Does this work? Does this work?
Yes, sir.
Test. I got to turn it on.
No, you should be good.
Test. You guys hear me okay?
Not really. I don't hear it.
Yeah, it does. Test. There we go. Okay, thank you for having me. And so I think what I heard from Philip was fundraise, network like crazy, and grind like a maniac. Get it done however you can do it, right? That's kind of what I heard. So, where's the guy that asked the question about the return on investment?
Let's make sure we tell you who you are.
Huh?
Let's make sure we tell
I'm
you.
gonna get there.
Okay.
But I want a return on my money. If I'm investing in you, your film, your product, I want a return on my money. I want to know exactly what Philip said. I want to know, what is the project? Is this altruistic? Is it something that's going to make me money in return? Etc. So yes, always want to return money from an investor. So let me start by saying this, who I am. I run an online, I took a few notes here, so bear with me. And I won't be long because I'm going to try to keep it short for time-wise. I run an online, can anybody guess what my online brand is? Anybody want to fix that?
Smart Money Pro?
Hey, Smart Money Pro, man, good. All right, so me personally, I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. Okay, grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. Sort of, I would classify myself as poor, growing up poor. We didn't get to close to middle class until my mother became an RN when I was a teenager. But I graduated from Wyandotte High School. Ultimately graduated from Kansas City, Kansas Community College. Ultimately graduated from K-State. Ultimately became a school teacher in the 90s. I was a school teacher for 7 years. Right here in Kansas City. All that said, in 2017, I wanted to have an online presence. And I said, I went to a buddy of mine who was over working off of Swope Parkway. We were sitting in a room and we came up with the name Smart Money Bro. Well, he said Smart Money Brother. I said, no, I don't want to be a Smart Money Brother. I want to cut that off. That's too long. Everybody's using the word bro nowadays. It's 2017. I said, I want to be Smart Money Bro. He said, what do you do? I said, I do this with money. I do that with money. And lo and behold, I became Smart Money Bro in 2017. And a lot of it was to tell my story of how when I was 30 years old, I had a negative $30,000 net worth, and I got a whole lot more money today in 2017, and I want to tell the story of other people. So I said, okay, I'll be Smart Money Bro. So I started an online community, a website, and I just became a creator online. And in 2021, I started a YouTube channel called Smart Money Bro. And the YouTube channel has grown to, what are we at, 580,000 subscribers. We got a ton of folks. We have a Patreon community. I sell digital products. I've written a few books that are on Amazon. I'm coming out with some courses and stuff coming up in next month. So I kind of started this whole thing around money, building wealth, helping people make more money, invest more money, have more money, pass more money along to their friends and family, because I was doing that. And that was my story. And so that became my brand online. And so I'm just looking at my notes real quick. And so now I got a whole bunch of stuff online. And Philip, thank you to Philip, he asked me to come here and kind of talk about branding and money and being a business, and not just being, shifting your mindset from creator, filmmaker, to brand and business, which is hard for a lot of artists to do, because a lot of artists that I've ran into kind of work in a silo, right? They're working in the corner of the room, and they're not working the whole room, so to speak, right? So me personally right now, because of the audience that I've built, I get no less than 10 pitches a day, literally. And I've got a ton of subscribers, but I have my email on YouTube. And so I get no less than 10, and I'm talking about all around the world, right? Not just America. I'm talking about India, Bangladesh, Taiwan, UK, Angola, South Africa, a lot from South Africa. But I get people to pitch me stuff all the time. Constantly, this is what we do. Hey, I can edit your videos, or I can do thumbnails, or I'm a filmmaker. Can you provide this? And so people are constantly pitching to me. And so when he asked the question about return on investment, I've been a one-man show for a lot of this, but also I've kind of ventured out into making some investments, some alternative investments in things and people and stories and who they are, etc. So I have a little bit of experience with that. But, and this is why, and I've become a brand, and this is why for creators, that are out here like yourself, you really got to start thinking about this thing from a more business standpoint. I think somebody mentioned business over there. But you got to start thinking about this thing from not just, I love what I do and I want to create, but you want to make some money, right? I mean, let's just be honest with you. If you don't want to make money, that's cool too. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to make money, right? But if you want to make money, then you got to approach it from that standpoint. And you got to think of it more so as it's kind of like the athlete. We always see the athletes that go broke. And it's because that athlete, they weren't looking at the business side. They just wanted to play some football. Or they just wanted to dunk the ball or shoot the ball or hit the ball, whatever sport. But you're the same way. You got to start thinking in terms of business just like the athlete. And people like me, if I'm going to invest in something, quite often, the people that pitch me, they don't get a response from me because I don't know them. I don't know who they are. Just a random guy, a random lady that sends me an email. I don't know you. How do most of us nowadays go figure out who we're dealing with? Let me go see their online presence. Let me look them up. Or how many of you have been watching a video on YouTube and you want to see, hey, I spend most of my time on IG. Let me see if this person has an IG page. right? So I don't know these people, but they're pitching to me all the time. Now, in my day job, what I do is I've been doing this for 17 years, is managing contracts on behalf of the federal government. So I'm what you call a contracting officer as well. So I got two things going on. I'm a full-time creator. So in my job as a federal government employee, where I manage contracts, I also work with small businesses who want to do business with the federal government. Maybe you got a small carpet, you lay carpet, and you want to put some carpet in the federal building, get a federal government contract, right? So you would come through me, I would vet you and so forth. So I've dealt with a lot of small businesses that want to also get a foothold and make money. And it's the same concept. You have to learn how to brand. You have to learn how to market. You have to learn how to get yourself out there. A lot of artists that I've talked to, a lot of artists that I've dealt with, frankly, can I be frank? Even though my name is Eric, is that okay? Bad joke, but boom. Okay, so frankly, a lot of artists are introverted. Okay, just be honest, right? They don't like to get out. They don't like to, show who they are. They don't like to shake every hand and, all this. But if you want to make money in it, you're going to have to sort of somehow come out of your shell. And I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday that said, that's not this person, because I do one-on-ones consultation with folks as well. And this person said, that's just not me. I'm not, this person was they were an author, and they've written a couple of books, and they want to get their books out there. Same concept, you write a movie or something, you want to get it out there with it. And the person said, well, that's just not me, and it's never been me. And my response to that person was that everything in life is growth, right? Change is constant. In order to grow, you got to change, right? Now, unless it's something that's against your morals, whatever your moral code may be, unless it's against your morals or it's illegal, then as an artist who wants to ultimately make money and be branded and get your name out there, you shouldn't take anything off the table necessarily. You shouldn't automatically say, what, it's not my nature just to go out and shake hands and meet people. Okay, so if it's not your nature to do something legal, like shake hands or something, then you may not grow. You just have to face that reality as an artist, that you've got to get competent in areas that you may be uncomfortable with, but that's okay because you're trying to grow. And growth is good. Change is going to happen. You can either embrace it or you can stay doing your art in the corner where nobody knows you, nobody sees you, nobody wants to fund you, etc. So that's my little spiel about growth. But again, and I'm just going through my notes, see if I'm missing anything. Think about it like this. This is another thing I thought about. Like people, who's your favorite actor? Does anybody have a favorite actor? Throw it out there. Let me see. Actor. Name one you like. Anybody.
Bradley Cooper.
Who is it? Patrick who?
Bradley Cooper.
Oh,
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. Okay, Bradley Cooper. Anybody else have a favorite artist? I know I like Denzel Washington. He's a favorite actor of mine. Anybody else?
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke?
Yeah.
Okay, Ethan Hawke. So let's just use some of these examples that you threw out there. So if you have a favorite actor, oftentimes you may not know the film or whatever they're in, but you like the actor, right? So you follow the actor. Favorite athlete. Who's your favorite athlete? Anybody got a favorite athlete? Nobody. Anybody. Come on, there's somebody you guys like, an athlete. How about Mahomes? All right? But the point is this. There are some people who love Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be a Patrick Mahomes fan. They're going to follow Patrick Mahomes if he got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Wrong team, sorry. They lost to them last year. But the point is that you need to be such that maybe instead of creating these separate films and features, maybe you need to be a brand and consider yourself to be a brand. As opposed to, we know what your product is, films, music, whatever it could be. But maybe you need to look at yourself as a brand that requires marketing, that requires advertising, that requires an online presence. Pick a social media. You can't be everything on every social media. You don't have time to do that, trust me. On IG, I only have 6,000 followers. On LinkedIn, I have about 25,000 followers. But you have to pick the social media platform that works for you. If it's X or Twitter, make it Twitter. If it's IG, make it IG. Maybe on IG, you could, instead of doing some of the cold emails or DMs, maybe you could on IG, you could mess around and start creating or showing some of the things that you create, short films, on IG. Start utilizing the shorts feed on YouTube and the shorts on IG that are reels, and start putting that out there. Now you have a brand. Now you're showing your work because people like to see what you do. Now when you send me a pitch in my email, I'm going to actually go out and say, well, who is John Johnson? Let me check him out on IG. Hey, this is what I do. I study YouTube. I study YouTube intently. And I'm subscribed to 200 different YouTubers because that's what I do. That's where I'm growing, right? So if somebody sends me a pitch, I'm going to go look on YouTube. They have a YouTube page. How many views are they getting on their YouTube videos? That way I know who you are, and I feel more comfortable donating. I feel more comfortable investing. Because this is just not some random guy in a basement, right, over in Slovakia. Nothing wrong with Slovakia, but you get what I'm saying. He's not sitting in his mom's basement in French Guyana, South America. This is a person who has an online presence and who's out there. And then that builds trust from my standpoint as an investor. Because I'm at the point right now where I've grown my brand, I've grown enough money where I can invest in people, right, in projects. So, but I need to know who you are. I don't want to just put my investment, my money down a rabbit hole that never comes back, or you disappear off the face of the earth and I never hear from you again. I don't see who you are. So that's sort of my take on it from a person who's literally come from nothing and have built this thing up through a brand. The other important thing, I think some people were asking about business questions, and as I started growing Smart Money Bro, and let me backtrack just a little bit, because I didn't want to be the person who had this wonderful business, had my business plan, had my website up and running, everything looks great, LLC this, LLC that, and I wasn't making no money. We all know people like that, right? Could be some of us. We built this wonderful business, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, but we don't make money. Now, what sits in after that? Frustration. I'm sick of this. I'm going back to the day job. I can't put up with this. They said I wouldn't make no money. They're right. I'm not making any money. So what I did with Smart Money Bro is I said, before I become an LLC, before I do any of that, I'm going to make money first. I think we call it, I think you said proof of concept, right? So I said I'm going to make money before I do all that. And that's what I did. And I didn't really start making money. I became monetized on YouTube. I got my first check January of 2023 on YouTube. I had 5,000 subscribers. And I guess that's 2.5 years later, we're up to about 580 or so. But again, on YouTube, it's not about the subscribers, it's about your views. It's not really about the amount of subscribers. But I didn't form my LLC until probably the beginning of 2023 for that particular business. Now, I've owned rentals in the area, real estate, since 2000. So I had my rentals in separate LLCs and so forth. But the point is that when I start making really, and listen, I don't even want to go into that, but you can make a ton of money on something as simple as YouTube. If you have a brand, people trust you, people ingratiate themselves to you, you can do a lot. I'm always shocked and surprised, and I won't be too much longer. I had a whole bunch of more stuff I was going to talk about, but I'm always surprised at how little artists utilize social media. It's shocking to me that you're a filmmaker, and I'll use filmmaking because I think most people here are filmmakers, but where are your short films on YouTube? Who are you directing for on YouTube? Who are you? There's so many YouTubers that could utilize your services and will pay you for something as simple. I'm a creator that creates, I've got maybe 950 videos on YouTube, 250 more that aren't on YouTube. But I had to learn how to do lighting, how to edit a video. I had to learn all this stuff. And there's so many YouTubers who will pay you to do that. I would say 50% of all the pitches I get, and I get no less than 10 pitches a day, 50% of them are not in America. They're not. But the thing is, it's like there's a lot of filmmakers in America that said that, hey, I'd give you $1,000 a month just to do something, to help get the, because I film, I write, film, edit all of my videos that you see. If you go to Smart Money Bro, and I'm thankfully the only Smart Money Bro on the face of the planet, and so I rank high in Google searches, wherever you go, and YouTube searches, but the point is that there's so many people that could utilize your services, and your services could be a good segue to get you onto other social media platforms. So if you direct something, a certain YouTuber, a large YouTuber, you direct them, you take that short, put it on your IG that you're growing and you're branding and so forth, and you're getting the word out there. Then when you go to say, hey, I edit videos, now you have a robust or a nice Instagram page, I can go look at that and I would say, oh, okay, now I know who that person is. Okay, you're making a feature film or you're making this. Okay, oh, he sent me something or she sent me something about, can you donate $2,000, whatever, for this book? Now I know you better, and I'm more apt to provide you with income or help you if I know you better, because I trust you a little bit more. But I'm just shocked at how many folks don't utilize social media to the tilt. I mean, I film most of my videos on YouTube in the living room or on my back patio. And I reach, 200,000, 300,000, a few videos, we got over 1 million, but the point is, there's such a captured audience on there right now. I mean, think about and be creative in ways that you can get your name and yourself out there, not only networking, not only fundraising, but how do you, and getting in the rooms, but how do you get your name out there? How do you leverage social media? Nobody knew me. Nobody. I was a nobody. Was I a nobody? Still on? He said still. I'm still a nobody. But the point is that I've reached a lot of people, and I've reached them by leveraging social media. By leveraging social media. So don't slip on that. Don't dismiss the ability to create something and easily reach thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, okay, just by simply using the internet.
Hey guys, this is Smart Money Bro down here at the Bird Comedy Theater in Kansas City, Missouri. Listen, if you are an artist, one of the things you want to make sure that you're going to do as you begin to grow your business is make sure that you use social media. Don't leave out social media. Come out of that corner that you've been doing your wonderful art in and what you've been creating and show the world, and make sure you use social media in the process to your advantage. Smart Money Bro, talk to you later.
Okay, so I have a short documentary don't make money with documentaries, and, period. And I'm not doing it for the money. But I had someone reach out to me, and they said, I want to invest, I'm going to give you everything you were asking for. I want to do this project with you. But I can't, make the money back. So,
You
I
can't.
don't know what to do.
You saying you can't make the money back for that investor?
Yeah, if I can't make money off of a short documentary, then what would you suggest doing? Because I'm like, wow, what an opportunity, but morally,
So what were they looking to fund? What were they looking to fund? They want to give you money to do the documentary?
yeah,
And did they want money? Did they want money back?
yeah,
And you're saying, well, I don't know how to give you money back.
yeah.
I mean, you told them that, right? You were honest with them and said, well, I don't know how. Anybody have any suggestions for her? Because you might have more suggestions than me.
Is it like a topic that people really
Yes.
care about? I think you're holding yourself back. Like, is there a requirement for you to pay it all back to them?
That's what they want.
So they'll help with the upfront cost.
Yeah.
What's their background that you can say?
Like, what they do for a living?
Yeah, like what's their investment in it? Like, what is the point? Like, what do they care about that same topic?
So the same topic, I mean, like, they align, their non-beliefs,
All aligned with it?
yeah, very atheist. And they believe in this project wholeheartedly. It's something that's not talked about.
And so it's something that they just can't create, but you can.
They're an electrician. They don't make film.
So you're giving them something, right?
I mean, the film, getting it out there.
And they want that message spread too.
Yeah, yeah.
Are they willing to take a loss? Like financially? Because you said you were honest with them, right?
Yeah.
So you were honest with them and said, I really don't know how I can get your return on investment. And then the next, what did it say after that?
Well, they want their money back. And then, I mean, like, and I was told by other filmmakers, take it. But I'm like, I can't.
I mean, that also goes into what was just mentioned about moral compass. Like your moral compass says, do not take this money due to said situation, how you feel about it, and you shouldn't do it, because at the end of the day, let's say the whole thing, the official whole thing keeps going, it's gonna continue to weigh on you past, the presentation of whatever the doc's gonna be.
Is there any other suggestions?
I mean, what I would say is like, film is a high-risk investment. It always is. Even the big films are high-risk investments. You see articles about films that are studio films, go to theaters, lose money all the time. It's a high-risk investment. That's all you have to do as a person looking for investors is let them know it's a high-risk investment. If this film makes money, great. The first thing we'll do is pay recoupment, but like you may not make money. You're right. And that's their choice to invest then.
But I wouldn't do anything, as Philip said, I wouldn't do anything. I'd be as open and honest upfront with them as possible. And if they're still not willing to give you your money, then you might have to move on. Okay, so in other words, you get what I'm saying, right? So, yes, I mean, okay, so a lot of things in terms of money is a lot of character, a lot of integrity involved with money. And so one of the things that I talk about on my YouTube channel is don't just chase money for the sake of chasing money. Make sure there's integrity behind it. Make sure there's character behind it. Make sure that you're being honest. You stay true to who your core beliefs are. These are things that are very important with money. That we live in a society sometimes that we throw those things to the side, but they're really important. And so I would say that, if you can't make the money back, let them know up front. If they know that, then it's on them if they want to give you the money. Now they have an opportunity to make an honest decision, and you need to go ahead and just be as honest and open as upfront as you can with them. And if it doesn't work out, all money's not good money, right? So any money that you guys are in the film industry, you understand that people do things for money they probably shouldn't do for money, right? So I would say you might have to move on to another investor if they want their money back. But otherwise, find a creative way to make money from your documentary, right? So that's kind of how I would approach that.
For sure. To sum it up, because I have to tell the person up. You know who Danny Brown is? The rapper? Anybody? Danny Brown, the rapper? Anybody? I think Danny Brown. You don't know, you're old. But, no. It's the Greg. But Danny Brown has this whole thing where, like, he was talking to 50 Cent, and he was like, man, I want to make so much music, this experimental stuff, like, it's going to be crazy, it's this, that, whatever. And 50 Cent was like, yeah, but if you always make it for yourself, like, make it for yourself, but just know that you can just, you're not making money for that, right? If you want to make money for it, then, like, you got to be a little less experimental sometimes, kind of just, like, balance that line of being like, I do this for myself, I'm also doing this because there is, once again, an audience for it. One that may not even be tapped into on like a larger scale, but like you know what that audience is yourself. Once again, as for me, it was like Harsh Lights. There's never been a black film about wrestling, but I know that there's an audience out there of like people that would be clamoring for that. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of this is just like balancing, but I want to bring this next person up also. His name is Isaiah Bowie. There's a headshot, smiling. And do you want to do my intro for you, or do it yourself? You can do it. Okay. Elizabeth talking about. But no. This right here is Isaiah Bowie. He is a tax manager at EY, formerly Ernst & Young. Right? Okay. Yeah. Looks a bit crazy. But okay. Yes, he's he's very knowledgeable in terms of like tax. He is not specifically in the taxing world for film specifically, but there were a lot of things that tend to correlate back and forth, and I would like for Isaiah to speak on some of those things.
Thank you, Philip. Or can you all hear me?
Get your mic. Oh, give me a second. Sorry. Talk again.
Thank you, Philip.
You're welcome.
So, like Philip said, I'm in the tax world here in Kansas City. So I've been a licensed CPA for the past 4 or 5 years. I'm from Kansas City. I originally went to KU, studied in accounting, got a master's in accounting and taxation, and now currently I do tax consulting and accounting for a large company. So I just want to come here and kind of mention how, since you all are in film and are artists, it's how important it is to, like Eric and Phil were saying, to be aware of what's going on in the business. Most of my clients are mainly large corporations, but I have dealt with smaller businesses. And what I've seen from people who run their own business is, for lack of better terms, kind of a mismanagement of finances in a way. So, and finances is hard for most people in general, let alone you're operating a separate business, or you're doing film, you're getting crowdsourcing, you're getting funding, you're getting all this money coming in. It's really hard to kind of like keep that in track and know exactly what to do with it. So first, I kind of just want to mention that the key to doing that is making sure that you are taking that serious. I think it's important to, you're not going to be experts in tax or in like the local business law, but you want to have some type of knowledge, do a little research on your own a little bit, and then also, contract to a specialist, a CPA, someone who actually can do that for you. I think it's key having your own specific knowledge as well, just so when you're working with this specialist, you also feel comfortable with the knowledge that the specialist has, just even though you don't have the same amount of knowledge, knowing basics of like, when it's time to file your taxes, or just like knowing that, hey, they should be reaching out to me because it's that time of year. Just basic stuff would be helpful. And what I've seen from a lot of smaller businesses or people who are operating as businesses is that a lot of that goes, out the window, and then you end up owing, thousands and thousands of dollars to the IRS or the state government, which is worst case scenario. So I would say the big focus is for anyone who's trying to start operating as a business or a brand, that you kind of focus on making sure that you have your ducks in a row. And I know that's like an added thing on top of maybe your day job, and then maybe your day job, or then maybe your film. So that's kind of like an added thing that you have to do during the day, but it will pay dividends in the future when you're able to actually start, bringing money in and keeping everything organized. With that being said, keeping everything organized, it's important to have good records. If you are, you're filming a production and you're buying all this food and you're buying all these items and you're paying for wardrobes, etc., you need to make sure you keep those receipts. You gotta make sure you have, ideally, a separate bank account. Ideally somewhere where you can say, hey, this is where everything's coming from. I can keep track of all these items, and you can use this for, for your taxes, or let's say you need financing. For example, a couple years ago, I was helping out with this barbershop, and I was helping him do like profit loss statements, so he just knows how much money he brings in each month. Simple as that. He was able to use those statements to go help him finance a car. But if he wasn't keeping track of it and he didn't have like a different bank account or a different something to track all that, it would be substantially harder. I don't want to get into like LLCs and all that stuff, kind of like what Eric was saying, and Philip. It's kind of better just to kind of get started at first, and then when you have money coming in, keeping track of it from there, having your own records, and then from there, doing more of the legal aspect for your liability, for example. If you keep great records, then you don't ever have to worry as much about, things coming to bite you in the butt in the future. So with those records, oh yes, question?
Yeah, where do you keep like paper receipts and things like that?
So I guess it just depends on how you're buying stuff. I feel like
Specifically for your business budget,
where, like physically.
Yes.
So I mean, if you have like physical receipts and invoices, I mean, if you can get like a little filing cabinet, or if you have a desk, it's just somewhere to keep it that safe. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you said, where do you keep it?
Yes, where's the best place to keep it?
Okay, so what I do for my, as a creator, I mean, I'm a film creator, but I'm a creator. So I use QuickBooks, and I suggest that if you want to turn this into a business, that you consider, and Philip mentioned it earlier, consider having a CPA on your team. Okay, I know that might be bigger, broader than a lot of you think about, but if you start making money and you start becoming a business and you start wanting to file taxes properly, you don't have to pay a CPA monthly, right? You just 4 times a year, once a quarter, you sit down with a CPA to make sure you're handling things right. He may charge you, she may charge you a couple $100 or whatever, a consulting fee. But just being in that mind frame is going to take you to another level and put you on a different way of thinking than a lot of artists. Okay, so having, and the reason I tied in QuickBooks to CPA is because when you do QuickBooks, you can add a CPA to your QuickBooks. So now your CPA has access to your QuickBooks, and they can get in there and reconcile monthly or whatever they need to do, and they can see what you're actually taken care of. So that's kind of how I handle it. I have a CPA, I have an attorney that I only go to when I need attorney stuff, right? If I need him to say, okay, I've got a few LLCs, or let's say we want to retitle this LLC into something different, then I go to my attorney and say, okay, it's going to be $300 or $400 to do that, $500. Okay, so again, this is once I'm making money, right? I didn't do this when I didn't have no money. Speaking of IRS auditing, let me say this real quick. From 2013 to 2018, I had an online store, an eBay store. I was going to make money somehow. eBay, YouTube, you name it, right? So I had an eBay store. In that 5 years, I sold probably over $100,000 in stuff on eBay. And I started the store to pay my daughter's way through college, so she wouldn't have to take on any loans or anything. So I got audited by the IRS though in 2019. I threw all my stuff away. Yeah, I threw all, after the year's over, you get your taxes done. Back then, I had a guy. You guys know what I mean by I had a guy? and I had a guy who did my taxes.
Not me.
No, I didn't point to him, but I had a guy, not this guy, I'm sorry. I had a guy who was doing my taxes, right? But when you have a guy who's doing your taxes, that ain't the same as a CPA. The guy ended up, I threw all my stuff away every year. Oh, you're done? Great. Ooh, I got this return. Lo and behold, I got audited by the IRS. I owed $25,000 to the IRS. And I went back and forth to their offices, taking what I had to, and they had this office in Lee Summit. You guys know where the firing range Frontier Justice is? It's right in that, it's one of those industrial buildings. They were so, you didn't even know it was IRS. Like, the building was unmarked, right? But in the office, like 15 IRS agents. But anyway, so I had to go back and forth with them, and lo and behold, I owed a bunch of money because I had a guy. That's why in 2020, 21, I said, I'm not gonna go through that again. I'm gonna get me a real CPA, and when you get a CPA, you need to interview your CPAs. You don't have to just accept the first CPA. You sit there and go and say, hey, I'm a film producer. This is what I do. These are the types of expenses I have. These are the type of, do you normally deal with this? All right, and so when they, and you can use that as one of your interview questions to interview a CPA, and then you can determine who's the right CPA for you and go from there. Don't just, or if you have somebody that gives you a referral, right, that's cool too. But pick somebody who can help you along and teach you the process. And that's how you know they're a solid CPA. But you want to get these people on your team. I didn't mean to grab that question, but I wanted to answer.
Talking about what to do with your receipts, what I do, which might not be the right choice, but I know receipts get lost. Things get lost. Even if I'm trying to keep it physically, I lose shit. Every time I spend money on my business, I take a photo of it. I have a Google Drive folder on my Google Drive that is just business expenses. That photo immediately goes in that folder. It's all together forever in that folder digitally, even if I lose that receipt. I try to keep it physically, but I lose shit. So that's what I do.
And then back it up. Make sure you back it up in case something, say in case your computer crashes, back that up somewhere hard.
Google Drive is on the cloud.
it's fine. You're right.
So, with keeping receipts.
Yep.
Because I lose business cards, right, so I take a picture, so it's the same, yes.
It's the same thing, yeah,
Good idea.
all my receipts
Okay,
are in my
one second.
folders and I have
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
Isaiah, going off of what Patrick said, is that something you guys would take as a CPA? Would you take photo receipts? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, we would take photo receipts. I mean, ideally, you know, if you can get electronic everything, you know, if you're running it like a business, you might have like actual bank account, so you might just swipe your card. That'd be preferred. Obviously, that's easier, less back and forth. You physically don't have to come to the office. But yeah, if we take whatever is like, you know, official documentation, as long as it's, you know, legible, makes sense, and, you know, it doesn't seem like it's fraudulent, it's something that could be taken.
Because like technically like a bank statement even is useful in that way because it shows where you spent your money, how much. As long as you can
Right.
prove that's a business expense in what you used it for.
Right, that's a good point. And by the way, when you start a business, if you start a business for your film company or your film production, you start a business, the first thing you gotta have with a business, if you wanna turn it into an LLC in the state of Missouri, state of Kansas, you gotta have a separate bank account for that business that you don't use, the term is commingle, you don't put your funds together. You have ABC production company, it has its own accounting, own business account.
Let me say something on that. That's important. If you do create the separate bank account, please don't put any personal expenses in. I know it's tough, it's hard, but that's the only way for your LLC to even count. Like technically, if you were to get audited, the government to come and be like, hey, what's this business? Like an LLC doesn't help you on a tax, does not help you in taxes. It is purely for your legal liability. So if you get an LLC, it's solely because, hey, you're trying to say you have a company. And if you start putting personal expenses in an LLC, or start paying yourself directly, or just mixing things in it, you completely just break the whole reason why you built an LLC. So, but that's a very common issue that a lot of business owners do. Like, it's just kind of, people think of an LLC as like, oh, this is for tax, this can help me with my tax. It does nothing for taxes. It is solely for your legal liability in case you get sued, or in case someone's like, hey, this is a business. And the moment the government sees that you're paying McDonald's or getting food or getting drinks on on this business, the government will easily say, no, this is not a real business and come after you. So the whole point is to keep it separate if you're trying to run your filmmaking or whatever as a business, yes.
What happens if you accidentally say, put an expense on a business, account?
Yeah, so I mean, mistakes happen, things happen. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. In an ideal world, it is perfect, but it depends on who audits you. It depends on if you get audited. There's a lot of times where people don't even get audited ever. But in Eric's situation, he got audited for a lot of years. So it kind of just depends. But a couple times it's not the biggest deal. But if it's a consistent thing, issues start to arise.
Hey everyone, my name is Isaiah Bowie. I'm a CPA in Kansas City, and I'm here at the Bird Comedy Theater. About to do an event for artists in Kansas City. If you're an artist who wants to be able to keep track of their records, make sure that they're able to, really create a business with their art, make sure that you're able to keep records, make sure you hire a CPA, make sure you hire someone who can actually help you with that, and then also make sure for yourself that you are knowledgeable about some of the basics. You want to be able to create budgets, know exactly how much you need to spend. You want to be able to have that knowledge, so when you do hire that person who has that extended knowledge, you can then use that and come together and really be able to have something that can, you can push forward in the future with. So just make sure that, at the end of the day, that you're staying knowledgeable, you're making sure that you're talking to the right people to keep you knowledgeable, and then at the end of the day, you will be able to have a successful art with a successful business.
Say if you do have a personal expense accidentally on that business account, is that something you should mention to your CPA immediately kind of thing, so that it just kind of gets squared away?
Because it happened to me. That's what I'm saying. So you have to be able to just make sure you can explain it away. So in other words, if you want to write it off, maybe you can talk to your CPA and say, hey, I had lunch on a business trip or something. Find a way that you can legitimize it, and because mistakes happen, right? But just don't do that on the record. This is why you need a good CPA who you can talk to. You can just drop them an email and say, hey, this happened over the weekend. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, you get what I'm saying? You got to have somebody else who can answer those questions, and don't slip on ChatGPT either.
Just get a CPA.
So with your LLC, how do you pay yourself? If you're making money as an LLC and you want to pay yourself because you did work and you money, what's the proper way to do that?
I mean, you can answer too. I'll just say from a high-level technical standpoint that it's called draws, so you're not taking a salary. Usually, if you're just an LLC, so you would just make it in a perfect world. You would every Friday or every other week. I'm gonna pull out this amount of money and do a transfer from that account to my personal account, and then over time it's gonna be okay. Consistently, this person takes X amount of dollars each week. This is what they pay themselves. That's kind of a clear marking of okay, this is the money that you're spending, that you're paying yourself essentially.
Yeah.
So let me say this. So Smart Money Bro is Smart Money Bro LLC, registered in the state of Kansas. And so what happens is Smart Money Bro LLC, this may be getting a little weeds, but that's okay. Smart Money Bro LLC files as an S Corp, an S corporation. And because I file as an S corporation, I have to pay myself a salary, what the government considers to be a reasonable salary every month based on my overall revenue for the year. So I am Smart Money Bro LLC, but I elect to file taxes as an S Corp.
That gives you a W-2, almost like an employee, if you do this route.
So what he said is right. So the government says that if you elect to file as an S Corp, you got to pay yourself a salary. And so I have to pay myself a salary every single month. And this is why you elect S Corp, because you can then have a draw, what they call an owner's draw, or what they call distribution. You can take distributions from your company, and you can have a salary. So from Smart Money Bro LLC, I collect Smart Money Bro. So I am the business owner, and I'm collecting money as an employee. I'm the single sole employee of the business, and the business pays me every single month a salary. And why? Because I elected to be an LLC filing as an S corp. Save myself on taxes. But I needed a good CPA to explain all that to me. That's how I learned.
And I do want to say, to his point, that's a good strategy, but only after you're making decent money.
That's right.
I would not file personally to file as an S corp if your profit at the end of the day is only like 20 grand, 30 grand. Like I would wait till you're profiting, 60, 70, 80, getting higher up there with income, because then S corp from like a tax perspective would then make a lot more sense. But once you start getting higher up, that's when you consult with your CPA and see if it makes sense to elect to be an S corp.
You said 80,000 a year?
About 50, 60, 40, 50, 60, somewhere around there. But your
Sorry, I'm sorry. But your CPA will give you a good idea. But if you're making $10,000 a year, you don't need an LLC filing as an S corp. But if you're making 50, 60 and up,
Maybe.
then you may.
I would say maybe.
Maybe. He's right. Yep. Yes, sir.
A lot of the conversations about LLCs, would it be easier at all to do like a doing business as account instead?
That's what I do, actually, because I'm
Just to
still
do a
fairly
DBA.
new, and I just do the DBA for now, and it works, and I have a separate bank account for it, and it's great.
And in terms of
100%.
tax
Yeah, what he said is
implications,
100% right.
you know,
Yeah.
is it much different, in terms of the tax implications?
I mean, it's not really different. I mean, it's the same thing where it's more of a legal protection than anything. Tax-wise, it's no difference.
It only becomes a tax-wise when you start filing as a C corp or filing as an S corp.
Right.
But otherwise, when you're just doing DBA,
It just goes on your personal tax return, and then you get like an extra schedule to it.
Yeah, I worked as a sole proprietor for a really long time, just as Patrick Poe. The only reason I LLC was because there's incentives to hire Kansas City, Missouri businesses and locals for the tax incentive of the Missouri State Film Incentive. So I now have a Kansas City, Missouri business because I live in Kansas.
And that's a perfect segue, because I wanted to mention towards the end of my talk is those tax credits.
Yeah.
So like I said before, keeping track of your budget, keeping great records, and kind of having a little idea. Once you get that down, then it's time for you to start looking into like those incentives that Kansas City have, that Missouri, the state has. So in 2023, just quick history, they passed a law which I think ended in 2013, where you get tax credits for the state of Missouri if you're filming under specific requirements. Now the Missouri requirements are pretty high, so I think you have to spend $50,000 minimum.
It's $50,000 for a short film, $100,000 for a feature.
Right, and I think the cutoff is 30 minutes for the short film, and anything over 30 minutes is $100,000 spent.
Yep.
So to get those credits, the base credit's around 20%, and just to walk back a little bit, a credit. So if you owe $1,000 in taxes, what a credit will do is, if you can get a 20% credit, that means that they're going to take off $200 of your tax. So if you owe $1,000, now you're going to only owe $800. So that's the whole point of the credit system, and that's just a very simple example. But with these credits at those spending levels, there's ways for filmmakers to be able to get pretty pretty good tax, not deduction, but a good tax benefit from shooting film in the state of Missouri. And now there's also additional bonuses that come with that from Missouri. So I think it's like a 5% increase each bonus. One is like if 15% of your film is in Missouri, like in a dilapidated or a specific area, then you get an additional credit. There's different options for that. Now, the one that I would think might be more
dilapidated or rural areas, which is, I believe, basically almost the entire state qualifies as one or the other.
Yeah, most of the state.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
No, that's what they told us.
So That's the Missouri one. Then on top of Missouri, there's a Kansas City one. So the Kansas City one, in my opinion, seems to be a little bit more attainable. The Missouri one, you have to get audited by a CPA like myself, and then also on top of that, get audited by the state, and it's 100% audit. So that's every expense has to be accounted for. The Kansas City one, I don't think there's as many audit requirements from what I've read. I think the minimum spend is about $10,000 for a short film or a music video, and there's different levels depending on what you're filming. If you're doing a full-length film, that might be like $100,000. But what Kansas City offers, which is different from Missouri, is a rebate. So a rebate, just to give you a breakdown, is pretty much a refund. So you spend all the money that qualifying expenses that are towards like your film, things that make sense, salaries, wages, etc. And then once you do the application, if you get approved, the Kansas City has its own budget that it will pull from. It's on a first come, first served basis. And if you go through the whole process, get through it, then essentially you can get up to a 12% refund on your expenses. So if you spent $10,000, you could potentially get $1,200 back. So those are kind of like the things that Kansas City and Missouri are offering. And if you add in Kansas City and Missouri incentives, it's right now the largest incentives in the country right now for a state/city. So those are things to kind of look at and kind of look into. Their websites have all the information, all the details about these credits, Kansas City and Missouri. But I will say it is a big lift, so I would recommend getting, potentially help-wise, essentially hiring a CPA or somebody who can, help you figure out what exact requirements you need to be able to be eligible, just because Missouri and Kansas City, they don't really want to give out money, but since they are, they want to make sure that, you're following pretty much their directions to the T.
Last thing.
So I wanted to say, I appreciate being here. I want to give a thank you to Philip Dixon, because Philip is my nephew, and Isaiah is my other nephew. So I don't know if you guys knew that or not. Somebody called the last name Bowie, right? So, not a Bowie, but that's okay. His mother is my sister. So, but I just want to give a shout out. Appreciate being here, and the thing I want to leave you guys with is just basically, start thinking about taking your art to a different level, whatever you're doing. Come out of the corner, come out of the silo, and show the world what you got, because too many artists, in my opinion, they love what they do, but they don't see the big picture or the whole picture or the business side or the accounting side, and I think that stunts your growth as an artist, just like it would stunt an athlete's growth or an actor's growth who didn't, we all know the people who get taken advantage of because they don't understand the business side, right? They're just doing their art. And there's nothing wrong with doing your art and what you love, but if you want to get to another level, you gotta see this thing from all angles and understand that there's a lot out here that you guys can obtain. So I appreciate being here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, minimum is an awareness thing, right? And awareness of, to grow with this artistry, the business has to grow, that business acumen, the business thought process, and the diligency along with that business has to grow as well. I said it once and I'll say it again. We are in the world of it. We are the Lewises and Clarks of this thing, right? There is a new frontier in the Wild West. What are you doing to incorporate yourself? What are you doing to incorporate your art? What are you doing to incorporate your thought process and mentality into what it takes to grow this thing to a new level? Because once again, with these tax incentives, people from all over the country are making their way here. There's pros and cons to that, whatever. But what are we doing inside Kansas City? The residents, I don't care if you moved here at some point, I don't care if you're from here. What are we doing here to make sure that we are establishing ourselves in terms of action, in terms of thought process, to make sure that we can grow with the rate in which film is growing in a world sense and national sense as well. So I appreciate you all for coming here. I actually had like an activity to do, but we talked for a long time. I hope you guys appreciate that.
Any more questions?
We literally gotta go. But no, you know, time it's been 3 hours. But luckily, we all from Kansas City. We all exist, and you know, you can get in contact with any of us after this at any point. Turns out I have their contacts, or we just approach them after this and get their contact and talk to them.
You can go to Smart Money Bro on YouTube, drop me a comment and let me know, or you got my email addresses on there too.
Sure. So yeah, no, I appreciate you guys once again. This doesn't stop right now because it's 3 o'clock. This should be on the journey that, for some people, the beginning, whatever, in the lineage of growth and what we are doing as a community, but also what we're doing as individuals. So I appreciate you all, and that is the IFC.